Chapter 754, Alliance with Shi Xian. Jian Jun seemed to be speaking of a common everyday matter, and smiled naturally. He said, "Before we left, Zhong Daren said that Shi Xian is weak now. Kunlun and Tian Huan are greedily watching from the sides. The 9 great Diana sects look numerous, but they are divided and their power is scattered, only appearing strong but will scatter when they face pressure. Only Mo Cloud Sea is a viable ally, while they do not have many soldiers they have strong commanders. They do not have a great amount of land, but they are wealthy, their potential can be anticipated and are a possible ally." "Zhong Daren is too complimentary," Zhua Mo politely responded. Jian Jun smiled slightly. "My Shi Xian has been weak for a long time, our elite have left us. If there is no help from outside forces, then we will not be able to fight off Kunlun and Tian Huan. Mo Cloud Sea is in a remote location. With the 9 great Diana sects as barrier, there are no worries in the short term. Yet once Kunlun and Tian Huan swallow Shi Xian, each will possess almost 2 realms of power and be unstoppable." Daren predicted that if it gets to that point, with the 2 sects sending soldiers, the 9 great Diana sects will collapse with little resistance. At that time, Mo Cloud Sea will have no place to retreat. The 9 great Diana sects can surrender, but Mo Cloud Sea cannot. Zhua Mo changed expression. He had to admit that Zhong De's prediction was accurate. The 9 great Diana sects were a group of rabble if they could not unify under one banner. If Kunlun and Tian Huan had just average abilities, they might try to fight back. If the 2 big sects really ate Shi Xian, just their presence would be enough for the 9 great Diana sects to surrender without even fighting. The hate between Mo Cloud Sea and Kunlun had been spread far and wide a long time ago. Everyone knew of the great hate between Mo Cloud Sea and Kunlun. The crux to stopping Kunlun and Tian Huan was not the 9 great Diana sects but Shi Xian. Zhua Mo had thought of this before, but at that time, there was no hope to be seen in Shi Xian. The sudden appearance of Zhongde had given new blood to the rotting Shi Xian. Jian Jun continued to speak, "I heard some things about Mr. Zhua's birth. Daren feels great sympathy and has executed everyone involved in that incident. Also, Daren has given me the duty of returning this item to Mr. Zhua. This item that belongs to the Zhua family is today returned to Mr. Zhua, to its owner." As he spoke, he took out a strangely shaped item. This item was extremely unique in shape. It was about the height of a person, and was like a tree branch cut off from a tree. The main trunk was curved and there were 5 forks that crisscrossed. The item was made completely from metal. Even after a few decades, it was still shiny like it was new. This is the part that we obtained in the past. The other 3 are in the hands of Kunlun, Tian Huan, and Xian Kong Temple. While returning this cannot undo the past, we have already taken care of the elders involved in the matter. However, we do not hope to receive your forgiveness with this, we only wish to sincerely express our apologies, and to show that Shi Xian is willing to take responsibility for this matter." Jian Jun's expression was stern and his tone solemn. Zhua Mo looked at this Shin device part and was in a daze. Shi Xian had not faked this item. When Jian Jun had taken this out, Zhua Mo had felt the presence of a Shin device. In his few memories, this strangely shaped thing had appeared a few times. "Thank Zhong Daren for me." Zhua Mo refocused, his expression normal. The scenes that had flashed through his mind caused his emotions to shift, but he quickly calmed his mind. As the leader of the entire Mo Cloud Sea, every decision could influence the future development of Mo Cloud Sea. There are no problems about the alliance and ordering Shin equipment. But both understanding your Shin power and designing Shin equipment will take time, Zhua Mo said. A hint of joy flashed across Jian Jun's eyes. He unhesitatingly took out a jade scroll. "This is the Shin power of our sect, I will give this to you now." Zhua Mo speedily read through it. After thinking for a moment, he had a general grasp of their method. The work to design the Shin equipment will take about 2 months. The price will only be known after the first ones are made. Jian Jun then asked, is it possible to finish 30,000 Shin equipment before the 8th month of next year? Suemo said after a moment of thought. It is difficult to produce 30,000 in 1 year, but there should be no problems for 20,000. Jian Jun said unhesitatingly, good. At least 20,000, no matter how many you will produce, we will take all of them. No problem. Suemo said crisply. This was a very profitable transaction. If they had 20,000 Shin equipment, Shi Xian's power would increase greatly. Suemo was happy to see this. Also, such a large order would cause Mo Cloud C's forging skills to go up another level. This was killing multiple birds with one stone. Jian Jun suddenly spoke, there is one matter we will request of Mr. Zhuo. Please speak. Zuemo had to admit that while Jian Jun was not strong, but his style and his way of speech made people feel pleased. Ah. Jian Jun sighed lightly. We want to ask Mr. Zhuo to pass on a message. A message? Zuemo stilled and then understood. Gu Yongdao. Yes, Mr. Zhuo, please give this letter to Gu Yongdao. This letter was personally written by Zhong de Darren. Jian Jun passed over a jade scroll, but his expression was slightly awkward. Suemo seriously received the jade scroll. He said with a nod, I will definitely give this to Brother Gu. Thank you, Mr. Zhuo. Jian Jun's smile was slightly forced. A talent of the sect had betrayed and left the sect due to being forced by the sect, this was not something to be proud of. Mr. Jian is too polite, Suemo said. The two then discussed the problem of setting up transportation formations. After setting up transportation formations, they would be able to travel freely. While it was expensive to move large volumes, it was the safest method at present. Both of them knew this. Once they opened the transportation formations, the wards of Mo Cloud C would flood into Shi Xian. This would affect Shi Xian greatly, but the present Shi Xian had no power to manage this. What was in front of them was an even more dangerous and cruel future. Organizing their combat forces was their most urgent need at this moment. Before leaving, Jian Jun said with a serious expression, Mr. Zhuo, you need to pay attention to Kunlun and Tian Huan. While Mo Cloud C is the best at forging, Kunlun and Tian Huan are not lacking. Recently, Kunlun and Tian Huan having been seeking ancient ruins, and Kunlun found the remnants of an ancient Shin device. They have started to plan forging a new Shin device. This information immediately attracted Suomo's attention. Is there anything more specific? No. Jian Jun shook his head. We only know that for this device piece, 3 of Kunlun's elders lost their lives and the sect leader was heavily wounded. Suemo was startled. This price was great even for Kunlun. Shin devices have developed quickly. Maybe in a year or 2, everyone will have distanced themselves again, Jian Jun said concernedly. Taking from the past is better than closing the doors and creating from within. You will need to pay more attention. If we have information of ancient ruins, we will notify you. All right. Suemo nodded. Jian Jun's words made him have nothing to say. The beginning of a new era was usually when development occurred the fastest. Slacking off for a time meant that some people might be forever pulled down. Unlike the completeness and maturity of the Ling power system, Shin power had just been reborn. While the general picture could be seen, the details were still crude. Kunlun was willing to spend such an astounding price. This meant that what they obtained surpassed this price. Suemo felt strong danger. Gu Yongdao was silent after reading the letter. Big brother, did that old man Zhongde say something ugly? Shuang Yu couldn't resist asking. Gu Yongdao shook his head and handed the jade scroll to Shuang Yu. Read. Shuang Yu took the jade scroll. His expression was spectacular after he finished reading, and then he handed the jade scroll to Xiao. Gu Yongdao laughed self-mocking. He's inviting us back, he will give up his position, and will clean out all opposing factions. Is this fake? Shuang Yu hesitated to say. No matter what, the contents of the letter were not something he could believe. It's true. Gu Yongdao's gaze was slightly dazed. The internal conflict and pain appeared in his eyes. Then should we return? Shuang Yu asked excitedly. He believed that if Big Brother returned to Xixian to take power, Xixian will definitely come back from the dead. Xiao, what do you think? Gu Yongdao suddenly asked. Xiao was silent for a moment and then said, it is hard to say. Zhongde says he only has 3 years left, it probably is not a lie. It is also not a lie that he will abdicate the power because only we can save Xixian. So up until now, he killed so many people but didn't touch any of those close to us. Gu Yongdao continued to be silent. But after? Xiao said calmly, once Zhongde is dead, Big Brother has the power, and then? The sect leader can tolerate Zhongde, but can he tolerate Big Brother? Shuang Ye's expression froze. He became silent. The sect leader is skilled in enduring. The elders have held power and controlled Xixian for so many years, yet the sect leader did not make a sound. Looking back now, the sect leader may have let them. The sect leader might have moved in the shadows for Big Brother to be forced out of the sect. No way. Shuang Ye's eyes were wide, his expression disbelieving. Xiao smiled coldly, the sect leader was young when he took the position, and could not stand up to the elders. He was forced by the situation. Think of what the sect leader has done all these years, free and taking pleasure, not asking about the matters of the sect. Look at what the sect leader did this time. While he is not a murderous person, he is a cunning one. Zhongde was gone for more than 50 years, yet he was able to uproot the elders and their support in the span of one night. This cannot be accomplished by just killing people. You mean to say? Shuang Yu was not stupid and understood. Without someone familiar with the situation, he definitely could not have done it. The sect leader had probably started to investigate the elders from a long time ago. Supposedly, half of the sect leader's guards were killed. It is terrifying that he managed to endure for so long. Xiao's voice was cold and emotionless. It would be fine if this letter came from the sect leader, but it came from Zhongde. Zhongde has great power, and the sect leader will go along with him. What about after Zhongde is dead, what do we have that will let us fight against the sect leader? So what, we aren't afraid of him, Shuang Yu muttered. Xiao smiled. Why should we? Right now, our situation is not bad. Our land is not large but our foundation is not bad, why should we go back to endure? Xiao is right. The shadows in Gu Yongdao's eyes were swept away. We only knew freedom after coming out. I am not willing to turn back. How can we believe him? But our relatives are in Zhongde's hands, how can we get them back? When they had fled, the relatives of most of his subordinates had been arrested. Getting these relatives back was a great problem that was related to their foundation. Xiao smiled confidently. This matter is not difficult. Zhongde has not killed them, so he will not make things difficult for us by using them as hostages. However, we need to ask Brothers Hua for help on this. Brothers Hua? Gu Yongdao's eyes lit up and then his praise left his mouth. Yes. Chapter 755, Shen Device Part Sui Mo was surprised by the attitude that Xixian showed, but he quickly understood what Xixian intended. Just like how Xixian was the crux to restraining Kunlun and Tianhuan for Mo Cloud Sea, Xixian's only ally in the Shuzhou world was Mo Cloud Sea. After reading through Xixian's Shen methodology, Zhua Mo understood why Xixian hadn't kept it a secret. No wonder people said that the true ancestor of the 5-element Shen power was the reverse 5-element Shen methodology that Shuang Yu had created. In Zhua Mo's view, Xixian's 5-element Shen power, was middling, and lacked any exceptional qualities. If a normal sect had created this Shen methodology, it naturally would be outstanding, but with Shi Xian's status as one of the 4 great sects, it could be seen how sparse its talent was, to have created this mediocre Shen methodology. However, Zuo did not help them advance the Shen methodology. He did not dare to underestimate a foundation thousands of years old. Even a rotten boat had 3/10 of its weight in nails. If they had the time, who knew if they could recover? A powerful Shi Xian definitely would not be willing to be Mo Cloud C's ally. After thinking for a moment, he called the 2 masters and gave the jade scroll to them. Disdainful expressions appeared on the 2 masters' faces. They naturally looked down on a Shen methodology of this level. There were not many that knew that Mo Cloud C had more than one Shen methodology. Every person's cultivation base were different, because Suomo's camp had a lot of Shouja, Yao, and Mo. With Suomo's, Mo Cloud Shen methodology, as the basis, there were many methodologies that branched off. Suo himself encouraged the creation of these, and would even help them perfect these Shen methodologies. He didn't hide a thing. In this kind of an environment, the 2 masters were knowledgeable about Shen power and looked down on normal Shen methodologies. Shi Xian has declined as expected. This Shen methodology is just worth so much, Master Sun Bao said without any courtesy. Ji Wei smacked his lips and said, "It would be good if we can get a hold of Kun Lun's and Tian Huan's Shen methodologies, those 2 might have some good insights." Hearing the 2 masters' tone as though they were looking down on the world, Suo couldn't help but smile. He then said, "Using Shi Xian's Shen power to design Shen equipment, is 2 months enough?" 2 months. Sun Bao dismissively snorted. "Half a month, only half a month. Half a month." Suo had a doubtful expression. Sun Bao met Suomo's doubtful gaze and jumped as though he had been slighted. "Darren, if you don't believe me, old Sun is willing to be punished according to military law." Ji Wei's face and neck was flushed as though he had been greatly humiliated. Suo jumped in fright at the 2's reactions. These people were so proud. However, his attention quickly was attracted by the promise of half a month. "If that's the case, how many sets can we make before the 8th month of next year?" Sun Bao thought and said, "It depends on how we make them. If we use all of our power, 50 to 60,000 will not be a problem. However, that is only if we give up on all other missions." "Without affecting the other missions?" Suo continued to ask. 20 to 30,000, Master Sun Bao sighed in relief. He didn't want to waste his time on forging these Shen equipment. There were countless mysteries in the world of Shen power waiting for him to explore. "Is this a large order?" Ji Wei suddenly said. For the 8th month of next year, Shi Xian will take as much as we make." Suo nodded. Sun Bao immediately asked, "What's the price?" Ji Wei's attention was also pulled over. The 2's eyes flashed with light. While Gongsun Cha was the main economic force of Mo Cloud C, they also spent the most. Suo never spared what he invested into Golden Crow Camp. All kinds of high-level materials, all kinds of trials, he allowed them to do what they wanted. It was only Suomo's unlimited investment that caused Golden Crow Camp to become so powerful. This could be seen from the flames they used to forge. In the past, only core members would have 4th-grade Golden Crow fire. Now, this had been spread to become the standard flame for the outer members of Golden Crow Camp. If they were willing to enter the cadet organizations, they would be gifted Golden Crow fire. The Golden Crow fire was harvested from the Golden Crow macro formation. While it was not as expensive as it was in the past, it still was significant. Distributing it so widely meant it cost a great amount, but Suo never complained about this kind of investment. This directly caused the forgers from many places to furiously flood Mo Cloud C. Later, in order to stop this outflow of talents, Kunlun and Tianhuan had to increase their benefits for production shouja. However, Mo Cloud C had already gathered a great number of production shoujo. 4th grade Golden Crow Fire. So many people would save for their entire lives but not be able to buy it. Golden Crow Camp was literally a monster that ate gold. The two masters were extremely sensitive to price and profit. The price will be dependent on your design, the profit margin will be initially set at 200%. Once Mo opened his mouth, he was immediately exposed as an evil businessman. Master Sun Bao was familiar with forging and said rapidly, a set of Shin equipment's basic cost is around 57th grade Jingshi. 200% profit margin, that is 157th grade Jingshi. That's about right, the power of the Shin equipment will reach about 80% of our Mo Cloud system. Ji Wei's eyes were bright and his breathing slightly rushed. Big business. If it is 20,000 sets, that is 2 million 7th grade Jingshi. No, we have to make at least 30,000 sets. There are ways to increase production. Sun Bao thought as he spoke, right now, there are many low-level forgers with Golden Crow Fire. We can have them first forge the ingots for the Shin equipment. That way, it will save us a lot of effort. Our Shin Fire pool is about to be completed. It will be able to be used to improve our efficiency. We can reduce production time. This way, we should be able to produce 40,000 sets. 4 million 7th grade Jingshi. Even Ji Wei, who had seen great amounts before, couldn't help but exclaim and inhale sharply. That was a terrifying number. If this spread, it would make all of the shoujo world boil. Mo's face was flushed, but he did not let the enormous number go to his head. He said with a snicker, "We will not take Jingshi, we will take materials. Jingshi is being depreciated now, and the prices of materials is increasing. This way, we will get everything out of Shixien." Sun Bao and Ji Wei furiously nodded. Ever since they entered the era of Shin power, the use and value of Jingshi continued to decrease. It was not something essential for people to cultivate. The biggest value of Jingshi came from the Ling power it contained. Yet in the era of Shin power, the greatest pursuit was of Shin power, not Ling power. Conversely, as a result of the fighting, the prices of materials had risen greatly. Especially high-grade materials. The prices grew so fast it seemed they had a new price every day. If Sui Mo and the others hadn't secretly moved everything out of Xian Kong Temple's Diana Treasure Pavilion, and all of the high-grade materials that Xian Kong Temple had accumulated over thousands of years had ended up in his hands, he would not have been able to support Golden Crow Camp's terrifying expenses. Most of the high-level materials in Gongsun Chaz, City Destroyer, and Bihan's, Arsonist, came from that. The reason that Sui Mo had not forged Shin devices was not because he didn't have the ability, but he did not have the resources. Each Shin device required a pile of high-grade materials each that were worth cities. After forging 2 Shin device raiments, almost all of Mo Cloud C's high-grade materials had been used up. Even Kun Luan and Tian Huan did not dare to casually forge Shin device raiments. Shin device raiments were the ultimate weapon of this era. It represented the peak of forging for this era. Sui Mo had thought deeply about forging, City Destroyer, and Arsonist. Agui already had a Shin device raiment, that gray set of armor that Sui Mo named the Undying Ghost. Sui Mo also had the Anti-Dragon Claw and the 3,000 Thread of Worry. While the sum of them together could not equal a Shin device raiment, they could compare to pseudo-Shin weapons. Also, Sui Mo thought that City Destroyer and Arsonist were of greater use to Mo Cloud C. However, 4 million 7th grade Jingshi was enough to forge a true Shin device raiment. The excitement the three felt when facing this number could be imagined. "I will leave this matter to your care," Sui Mo said. Sun Bao jumped up and said excitedly, "Darren, do not worry, this subordinated definitely will not let even one of these 4 million pieces of Jingshi walk away." Ji Wei nodded. I'm confident in your work. However, pay attention to keeping this a secret. Don't let people find out too early, Zhuo ordered. The two hurriedly acknowledged this, and then impatiently bid farewell to leave. It was impossible for others to be completely unalerted to a project of such scale. Cloud Sea was filled with spies from all factions. While extermination was occurring constantly, these spies were like weeds that would never stop growing. As long as this matter was not exposed too early, there was no great worry. Watching the two leave, Zhuo's face unconsciously turned to that Shin device part shaped like a tree branch. His eyes flashed with emotion. As though she detected his emotions, a Gui silently appeared behind Zhuo. The scars on a Gui's faces had disappeared. Her face was like the one that Zhuo had once seen in his memories. Her face was still expressionless and the mark on her brow was unusually clear. Her undying Shin power had become even more unfathomable. Fine. Zhuo turned to smile at a Gui and then rubbed her hair. A Gui's empty eyes became gentler. Let's go to see. Zhuo pulled a Gui to walk towards the corner. The empty corner suddenly pit up and Zhuo and a Gui disappeared in the light. Zhuo and a Gui appeared in a secret room. There were many things stored in these secret room. Many of the items showed marks of being burned and damaged. They also looked old. There was a helmet placed at the end of the room. The helmet was dim. Dozens of thin and long bone spikes fanned out in rows behind the helmet. At the top of the helmet, there was a crescent thin blade coming out of the forehead that arched over top and wrapped around to the back of the helmet. This was another part of the Shin device raiment that his father had forged. It had been placed in Xian Kong Temple's Diana Treasure Pavilion and then landed in Zhuo's hands. The things in this secret room were all things that Xian Kong Temple had taken from his home in the past. When Zhuo came near, the dim helmet suddenly lit up with a gentle light. Zhuo stilled, and his mind moved. He took out that tree-shaped Shin device part. The helmet suddenly shook, the dozens of spikes trembling as it gave off a hotter light. Zhuo suddenly felt pain on his hand and he instinctively let go. The tree branch turned into a streak of light and flew to the bright helmet like a bird returned to the nest. Chapter 756, The Uninhibited Chao Xian. Zhuo looked at the strange thing in front of him and was greatly interested. The forked tree branch part of the devices was now pointed downwards and the main trunk was connected to the back of the helmet. It looked. Zhuo examined it for a while and found it increasingly familiar. He thought hard before he finally recalled what this was like. If the helmet was a person's head, then the main branch that led down from the back of the head, wasn't it a person's spine? And the forked branches that split off, weren't they like the small blood vessels and channels? The more Zhuo looked, the more he felt it was like that. Suddenly, Zhuo was extremely curious about his father. This kind of design was definitely unique. Even in this era where Shin devices were constantly appearing, it still was unique. He was even more curious what the other two parts looked like. What would the complete Shin weapon look like? What kind of power would the complete Shin weapon have? Zhuo suddenly had a feeling that his father was a great person. This Shin device was too unique. Even though Zhuo had forged the angle device raiment, a pseudo-Shin device, he still felt stunned by the incomplete two-part product in front of him. There were no indications of how it was forged on its body. There were no Shin glyphs or seal scripts. The tree-like structure seemed to have grown naturally. The helmet was tightly melded and didn't show any signs of being forged. Those long strange antennae-like things were something that Zhuo still didn't know the use of. He tried to pick up the newly merged Shin weapon. It was unexpectedly light as though there was nothing. A ball of light suddenly lit up at the end of the antenna. The light flashed to a certain rhythm that was hard to understand. The level of this Shin weapon far surpassed the level of the present Shin weapons that had appeared. To an innocent man, wealth is a crime. How could the Zhuo family which possessed such a Shin device not be targeted by other people? Zhuo sighed. He focused on the half-Shen weapon in front of him. After the two parts merged together, they seemed to come alive, and occasionally released light. Suemo tried to channel in Shen power. Boom! He felt the surrounding scenery change. Information flooded into his mind. Off guard, Suemo's body froze, his vision turning black. He only recovered after an unknown length of time. Pew! He tasted sweetness and then spat out a mouthful of blood before his chest felt less congested. He couldn't help but show a shocked expression. In Suemo's sea of consciousness, Wei would have been motionless all this time suddenly opened his eyes. Pu Yao also felt something and suddenly stood up. Don't try that again. Wei's words stopped Suemo. With the warning, Suemo put the incomplete Shen weapon down with lingering fear. He didn't dare to try again. With his previous attempt, he had been lightly wounded, and almost 7/10 of his Shen power had been used up. His scalp pricked at this result. He hadn't even detected the loss of his Shen power at all, and it was 7/10. There was too much information inside the Shen device, so much that it surpassed his tolerance and injured him. But no matter how he thought back, he could not remember a word. This thing. However, Suemo quickly noticed that Wei had woken up. He entered the sea of consciousness with a grimace. Wei, you finally woke up. When Wei opened his mouth and started nagging. Azwa, I said that you have to be careful, why don't you listen? You're a leader now, how can you be so rash? You have to know, if your Shen power was just a little bit weaker, you would have been sucked dry, your life would be finished. Listening to Wei's nattering, Suemo felt warm and a smile came onto his face. Pu Yao impatiently interrupted him. Enough, how come I didn't feel that you were an old woman before? You are the great gravestone armor, you have dignity, show your presence, don't be like an old woman. Wei stilled and then instinctively nodded. That seems right. But he quickly reacted, what about an aura like yours that isn't male or female? Pu Yao was furious. Who are you saying isn't male or female? Wei said deviously, not me. I'll kill you. Pu Yao smiled in anger, the black flames on his body shooting into the air. The black flames in the sea of consciousness exploded as well, Pu Yao rampaging in the sky. Wei didn't have any fear at all, his expression was sunny but his mouth poisonous. If you can't kill me, you are a Renyao. Suemo almost fell onto his face. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. As expected, Wei was the more devious one. Two tigers fighting would affect the bystander. Without a second word, Suemo silently slipped away. Not long after he came out of the sea of consciousness, Suemo received Gul Yang Dao's letter. After reading it, he guessed what the issue was, but it was not for him to express opinions on this matter. Also, the favor Gul Yang Dao requested of him was a simple matter for him. Gul Yang Dao wasn't willing to return to Xixian, and this was most likely because he saw that Xixian was in difficult straits. The situation was not something that one person could change. He shook his head and his attention turned back to Mo Cloud Sea. The present situation was also a great pressure on Mo Cloud Sea. With Xixian's massive order, Mo Cloud Sea could enter a time of fast development. As long as they overcame the obstacle of materials, the powerful production abilities of Mo Cloud Sea would be able to be expressed. For the present Mo Cloud Sea, if they worked steadily, if they finished accumulating in this time, their power would change. While Suemo had a good plan, other people would likely hamper his efforts. Xixian and Mo Cloud Sea have established an alliance. The report of the subordinate caused Lin Qian to raise his head. His expression was normal. Is the information true? This is intelligence from the spy inside Xixian, the subordinate said respectfully. We cannot get close to Zhongde and does not have direct evidence of this, but Zhongde took out the Zhuo family Shen device part from Xixian's stores. We detected traces of its movement. They are willing to pay a great price. The one that spoke was an elegant youth with red lips, white teeth, and ethereal long robes. His voice when he spoke carried an unique slowness. He was called Chao Xian and one of the members of Lin Qian's inner sword pavilion. In the sword pavilion that Lin Qian had built, every position was coveted. Countless elders used their connections in hopes that they could arrange for their disciples to enter. Everyone knew that the sword pavilion would become the true core of power in Kunlun's future. If they could enter, they would undoubtedly enter the true core of Kunlun. Yet Lin Qian had resisted the suggestions of the masses and picked an unknown disciple, Chao Xian. Chao Xian was born into poverty. While his parents were Kunlun disciples, they were outer disciples. He appeared very poor in the eyes of the public. Also, Chao Xin's individual cultivation was stunningly weak. He entered the sword pavilion with Zhuji cultivation. This was the first in Kunlun's history. What was also unexpected was that Chao Xin's ranking was high. The first person that Lin Qian picked was Xue Dong, the second was Chao Xian. This unknown outer sect disciple immediately multiplied in value and was watched by countless. Rather than shining like people had expected, Chao Xian gradually faded out of view and didn't seem to have any existence to speak of. Only the true higher levels of Kunlun knew the great power this youth controlled. Yes, the subordinate hurriedly said, this time, the envoy was Jian Jun. This person is not strong but skilled in diplomacy. He was promoted by Zhongde. It was the people from Abyss Jail that protected him on his journey. We could not discover what they discussed. Chao Xian said casually, pay attention to the movement of their resources. Zhongde is careful, but he just came out of seclusion, and the power he wields in the sect is limited. These tasks are ones that he has to rely on the people below to do. Yes, the subordinate acknowledged and then left. Lin Qian didn't feel any displeasure at Chao Xian giving orders. He frowned and said, if Shi Xian and Mo Cloud C have allied together, it will affect us greatly. Chao Xian took a sip of wine, and savored it for a moment before speaking. The most correct move that Shi Xian has made up until now was to get Zhongde to come out. However, one cannot stand alone. Zhongde is strong but he is just a battle general. Our entry point should be Shi Xian's sect leader. I looked at the reports on him. He became sect leader at a young age, but Shi Xian has been controlled by the elders. One can imagine just how discontent he felt. A person like this will desire power far more than other people. Look at this move, he almost cleaned out all of the elders. Lin Qian listened carefully. As he listened, he poured wine for Chao Xian. His movements were practiced. This was clearly not the first time he was doing so. Chao Xian sipped happily, his expression uninhibited as he drawled, right now, Shi Xian's power is concentrated in Zhongde's hands. He can tolerate this because the situation is severe. Only Zhongde can control the situation. He needs this knife. This is the common speculation. However, I feel that it is not so simple. It is not possible that Zhongde would not have thought of this. I investigated this person especially. This person is very interesting. On one hand, he values promises and friendship, on the other, he can do anything, be cruel and kill easily. 50 years ago, his woman was pulled into an incident and died. He lost his passion and asked to guard the Abyss Jail. He grew up in Shi Xian from a young age and owed the past sect leader. However, the past sect leader of Shi Xian did not help him with that case. Therefore, Zhongde's emotions about the sect leader are slightly complex. However, no matter what, the matter of his woman is still something he thinks about. This can be seen from him immediately building a tomb after coming out. He cannot be loyal to the present sect leader but he still decided to come out, still help the Shi Xian sect leader finish the purging. This caused me to come up with a new theory. What theory? Lin Qian was interested. He knows what the present sect leader is like, yet he still helped the other complete the purge, still came out of isolation, still had himself become a blade for the other, and take full control without any qualms. There are two possibilities. 1. He wants to kill the sect leader and become the ruler of Xixian. Or, he knows that he will not be a threat to the sect leader even if he does this. Chao Xin's eyes were bright, his tone slightly excited. If he wants to kill the sect leader, the best time would have been when purging the upper ranks, with the loss of half of the sect leader's personal guard. The counterattack from the elders was enough for the sect leader, lacking protection, to die. And it would be something accepted and his reputation would not be stained. But he didn't do that. This is matching to his personality, while bloodthirsty, he has his bottom line. The other possibility is something worthy of discussing. He has such great power yet he is not a threat to the sect leader. That only occurs in one possibility, he knows he won't live long. A dead person will be of no threat to anyone. Lin Qian changed expression. Chapter 757, Danger. Leaving in the night, they avoided the armies stationed along the way, making a long detour. The Tangzi battalion appeared near Eastern Spring Jia like ghosts. Because Suemo had to have 100 energy Jia, they had spent more effort gathering information on the surroundings here than in other places. This allowed Tang Fei to easily avoid the enemy's troops stationed here. The Mo Martial Alliance would never think that Bihan would target Eastern Spring Jia. Unlike the other Jia that were heavily guarded near 100 energy Jia, Eastern Spring Jia was just as guarded as usual. How long until we arrive in Eastern Spring Jia? Tang Fei asked gravely. The long hair of the female blew in the sharp cold air. Her stern face was filled with determination and her tone firm and strong. According to our present speed, we will arrive at the outer defense line of Eastern Spring Jia at approximately tomorrow afternoon, the subordinate calculated before answering. Tang Fei looked around. Seeing that everyone's energy was good, she nodded inside. The rest last night had been important. The recovery of the battalion's energy was in preparation for the battle tomorrow. Every soldier had been outfitted with a high-grade Mo steed. The cloud steeds that Chun Yucheng had bred were better, but their production was limited and not available to be distributed to the Mo soldiers. The wealthy Zhui Mo decided to give them high-grade Mo steeds. All of them were 7th-grade fire-stepping hell horses. They were tall, their hides completely black and their eyes dark red. Their hooves were wrapped up bright red flames. The fire-stepping hell horses were outstanding for their endurance, suited for long journeys. They were vicious and not afraid of battle. They were a good fighting Mo steed species. Increase the scouts by 30 teams, pay special care as to not alert the enemy. Tang Fei ordered. The subordinate hurriedly passed on her orders. Miao Jun looked on with a smile at his student. The past Tang Fei caused people's eyes to light up, but she had not been so methodical and calm like now. In these past years, he had spent almost all of his energy to teach Tang Fei. He was extremely satisfied with Tang Fei. Even in Mo Cloud Sea that had many geniuses, Tang Fei was still exceptional. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel emotional. If he wasn't part of Mo Cloud Sea's inner core, he could not imagine the strength Mo Cloud Sea had in their battle generals. Any of them would be a person that could take control of a region if they were of another faction. What he felt even harder to believe that the great majority of these talented young battle generals had been unknown before joining Mo Cloud Sea, and many were not even battle generals before. Tang Fei's strong voice interrupted his pondering. Eastern Spring Jia is not an important Jia, and stationed there are 4 battalions led by Mo generals. It is not difficult to take it and then we can threaten the Sun Mountain and Eastern Might defense line. There are many important Jia concentrated in the region, all of them resource Jia for the Mo Martial Alliance. They have stationed many soldiers there. We will encounter attacks from multiple fronts. Miao Jun listened to Tang Fei's analysis. Bihan Daren's goal is naturally not those places. The most likely reason he has us attacking Eastern Spring Jia is to diminish the others' ability to reinforce Bright Mountain Jia. A Zha-Gu's task should be similar to us. From the position, it seems that a Zha-Gu, us and Bihan Darren form a triangle. Bihan Darren is the corner at the front. Shi Dong's use is the hardest to guess. That place is a target that has no value. Tang Fei had a puzzled expression in her eyes. Seeing this, Miao Jun smiled and said, "Let's continue this talk after taking down Eastern Spring Jia." Tang Fei still and said embarrassedly, "Teacher is right." Her expression turned stern, coldness rising on her determined face. She silently raised her right hand. The scouts had encountered enemy battalions. The commanders around her immediately turned serious. Orders were quickly sent down. The team leaders became alert, shouting rising in waves. They urged on the MO steeds under them, moving into formation. The MO soldiers behind them quickly adjusted as well. The troops which had been swiftly moving quickly changed. Within 10 breaths, the shape of the troops turned from a marching formation to an offensive battle formation. Tang Fei urged the cloud steed under her forward. Her cloud steed was a silver thunder cloud steed. Compared to the large brawny and vicious fire-stepping hell horses, the thunder cloud steed seemed much thinner. It moved elegantly at a measured pace, its entire body covered in dark blue cloud patterns. Tang Fei appeared at the front of the entire battalion. After 7 years, the Tongzi battalion had expanded to 3,000 people. The crowd of dots in the horizon became clearer as the enemy approached closer at a rapid rate. Tang Fei's face seemed to be made from granite and was unmoving. However, that pair of calm eyes burned with fighting spirit. She lightly tapped the thunder cloud steed under her. The thunder cloud steed knew its master's intention. It whinnied, lightning exploding off its body as it suddenly accelerated. Without any hesitation, the entire battalion accelerated in unison. The Shin equipment on each MO soldier suddenly lit up. MO Cloud Shin power moved at the same time, gathering through the levels, from the MO soldiers to the MO captains, from the MO captains to the MO colonels. After being tempered, they gathered to Tang Fei. The Tongzi battalion seemed to be one being, a ball of furious Shin power, like a great axe being swung in the hand of a giant. And Tang Fei, shrouded in lightning at the front of the troops, was the silver edge of the axe's bright blade. The opposing MO general paled, but the two sides were too close to order a change. There was no time for them to turn back. The MO general knew that this was not the time to hesitate. If he did, they would perish. Charging forward would be their only chance of living. He gritted his teeth and then suddenly shouted, "Kill!" The power gathered on his body, yet it could not give him the usual feeling of safety and confidence. The two floods of bodies neared at an astounding speed. The Tongzi battalion was like a sharp and powerful axe that cut into the other's battalion. The enemy's power was as fragile as paper in front of this heavy axe, not able to withstand even one attack. Everywhere it passed, blood and flesh flew. Anyone that was even touched would be torn apart. In a blink, Tang Fei saw a sliver of light. She knew that she was about to penetrate through the other's battalion. Without any hesitation, Tang Fei released her control of the power gathered on her. The savage power suddenly exploded with the Tongzi battalion as the center. She had timed it perfectly. The power that suddenly lost its restraints was like a bomb exploding inside the enemy battalion's ranks. It threw up blood and limbs, and the other's ranks were completely thrown into chaos. The disorganization of the troops meant that power could not be effectively gathered and controlled. If its enemy still maintained their battle formation, then what waited for it was the fate of being slaughtered. In comparison, Tang Fei was clearly more skilled. After finishing such a strong charge, her battalion ranks were not disordered in the slightest. She didn't need to reorganize her battle formation before she started a second charge. This battle was determined already. Lin Qian was stunned by Chao Xin's daring speculation. A long time later, he slowly spoke, "If this is true, then it is a piece of significant news. Shi Xian will not continue. Chao Xin's expression was relaxed. No matter if Zhongde lives or dies. If he lives, a conflict will occur between the sect leader and his best battle general, Zhongde, who is not of one mind as him. If he's dead, without Zhongde, Shixian will lose its greatest shield. How will the sect leader prop up Shixian? I don't believe it. Unless Guliang Dao's trio is willing to return to Shixian. However, I do not think that the Shixian sect leader is willing to tolerate them. A person who has lost power for decades has a far greater possessiveness about power than normal people. Guliang Dao, he is a strong and proud person, is he willing to bow his head? These few years are the strongest years of Shixian, the light of the sunset will always intoxicate people. Lin Qian was thoughtful. He nodded. Yes, Mo Cloud C is the one more worthy of wariness. Yes. Chao Xian put away his frivolous expression and turned serious. The one truly worthy of guarding against is Mo Cloud C. Mo Cloud C is filled with life and it is progressing. This is not something that Shixian, a sinking ship, can compare to. If the two ally, the one that benefits the most is not Shixian but Mo Cloud C. Mo Cloud C. Lin Qian murmured to himself and then smiled helplessly. He said, I had not thought that Mo Cloud C would grow to something that we would have a headache about. Mo Cloud C does have weaknesses. Chao Xin's eyes flashed with light. He said with a cold smile, from the surface, Mo Cloud C is small but strong. It possessed the two great battle generals ranking top 4 and top 10. It has strong battalions, many experts. It is strong in forging, and wealthy. Yet it has a great weakness, it lacks a person who can manage its internal affairs. Lin Qian thought. He really could not find anyone in Mo Cloud C that was famous for managing affairs. This weakness will not be evident when their territory is small. But if their possessions expand 10 times, no, only 5 more times, they will be a mess. Chao Xian was filled with great intelligence. 60-something Jia and 300-something Jia has several levels of difference in the difficulty in management. Lin Qian's eyes lit up. Yes. Chao Xian had clearly worked hard. This is a hidden weakness if they do not resolve it. Once they start to expand, this weakness will become fatal. We are expanding, if they do not follow, they will fall even further behind us. At that time, they wouldn't even have the chance to fight back. If we increase our expansion speed, they only have one choice, expand. A snake that gorged itself to death. They know they will die from overeating but have no other choice. Lin Qian smiled. It seems that we need to give them a bit of pressure. Also, they have another weakness. A cold light flashed through Chao Xin's eyes. They rely too much on transportation formations. The 9 great Diana sects sent people to sneak to the transportation formations to take control. Fortunately, eldest Shixiang Wei Sheng was nearby and quickly arrived. He killed more than a dozen Diana Xiu before they retreated. The others' infiltration had been planned for a long time. Even the Jinji around the transportation formations were unable to stop them. It could be seen how strong the enemy was. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Swa Mo who hurried here inhaled in shock. Most of Mo Cloud C's connections to the outside world were through transportation formations. While they were expensive, they were convenient and fast to build. For the wealthy Mo Cloud C, this was not a great problem. In the past, nothing had ever happened to the transportation spots. How come someone had sneaked through this time? After walking around the transportation spot, Swa Mo finally understood the reason. There was a complete set of Jinji set up around each transportation formation. In the past, when everyone cultivated Shen power, the Jinji was enough to guarantee the safety of these transportation formations. After entering the era of Shen power, everyone's power had grown tremendously, but the Jinji had not changed much. This imbalance caused the previously safe transportation formations to become extremely dangerous. Suemo immediately recognized the severity of the problem. Golden Crow Camp had focused almost all of its power into the Shin devices and the Shin equipment. He had not thought that there would be a weakness in the Jinji. This had caused the development of Jinji to fall behind. The only one that could be used was the King's Forbidden Firmament. However, this set of Jinji was so expensive to set up, so difficult, that it was not realistic for the many transportation formations that Mo Cloud Sea had. Suomo's first thought was to close the transportation formations. But he quickly rejected this idea. The transportation formations were Mo Cloud Sea's only connection to the outside world. If they closed the transportation formations, then all of Mo Cloud Sea's products would be unable to be transported out, and they would be isolated from the world. That would be a fatal blow to Mo Cloud Sea. Chapter 758, Cutting One's Flesh, and Inspirations. What Mo carefully inspected the corpses on the ground. They aren't bad. Wei Xing's words rang an alarm for Zuomo. Those that could be called not bad by Wei Xing Shixiang were definitely not weak. It is Heartleaf Diana sect, a guard carefully reported. Darren rarely had a dark expression like this. Heartleaf Diana sect. Zuomo's eyes flashed with a cold light. Yes. These people are not wearing Shin equipment, but they cultivate Heartleaf Shin power. Darren, take a look. Finishing, the subordinate forced open the hand of a corpse. There was the mark of a tree branch with a leaf on the palm. Darren, this is the mark of Heartleaf Shin power. They have reached the level of one branch one leaf. One branch one leaf? Suemo asked. When Heartleaf Shin power reaches a new level, their mark will grow and add another leaf, the person said respectfully. You know a lot. Suemo asked in surprise, what's your name? This subordinate is Jin Dewei. The guard was slightly embarrassed. This one's duty is to inspect the merchant caravans that travel through here, and I have heard some things in the process. Oh, then speak, what other information is there on Heartleaf Diana sect? Suemo stood and asked interestedly. Jin Dewei had a hesitant expression. Suemo smiled and said, it's just chatter, and I'm just listening. Jin Dewei finally spoke. This subordinate coincidentally heard the manager of a merchant caravan mention that Heartleaf Diana sect secretly consorts with Tian Huan. This subordinate felt they were slightly suspicious and paid attention to them secretly. I heard this from their members. Why did you find them suspicious? Suemo seemed to be more interested in Jin Dewei. This subordinate found that they were going around and asking questions, especially about Shin equipment and Shin power. They also asked about the general location of Golden Crow Island. The range of items they brought was wide. They bought a few of everything but not many of any particular item. They did not seem like business people, Jin Dewei explained. The admiration in Zuomo's eyes grew. This person did not have an attention-catching appearance, but he was perceptive and he was a careful person. This was a talent. He then asked, what do you think of this matter? Jin Dewei knew that Darren was testing him and immediately focused. After a moment of thought, he said gravely, they are very familiar with the Jinji and probably have come before to study them. There were not many people in this attack, just 20, they did not have any reinforcements. It seems more like a probing mission. After he said this, Jin Dewei's expression turned ashen. He was frightened by his own conclusion. Suomo's expression turned dark. There are about 98 transportation formations to the outside world. In 20 or so jie, these outer border jie have been labeled. There was a jie map in front of Gongsun Cha. Almost all about the outermost jie were labeled in red. Because Mo Cloud Sea's connection to the outside was almost completely reliant on the transportation formations. 98 transportation formations, 22 of the outermost jie, on average, each jie had more than 4 transportation formations connected to the outside. Of these 98 transportation formations that go to different jia, 42 of them are to Xiuzhi jia that are not connected to Tianhuan and Kunlun. These 42 jia are mostly from the 9 great Diana sects and some smaller powers. These factions are easy to infiltrate and the transportation formations have become a fatal weakness for us right now. Gongsun Cha raised his head to look around. The most secure method right now is to relocate the transportation formations. The best option is to gather the transportation formations, and designate specific business jia where we will station troops to guarantee their safety. However, there are also problems with this plan. The expenses in setting up new transportation formations will be huge, and this way, the cost of many of products will increase as well as reduce our offensive abilities. Suemo had a grimace. Gongsun Cha's method was possible, but just as he had said, the investment would be enormous. Transportation formations that could move large volumes for long distances were expensive. Even with Suemo's wealth, he had only accumulated these 98 transportation formations after 7 years of development. If he had to rebuild so many transportation formations, the amount of money he had to spend was a great sum. This was a relatively safe plan, but it was too expensive. The price is too great. Suemo shook his head. We do not have the capital. Everyone nodded. This plan cost too much. In their view, even if they took over all these jia, they didn't need to spend so many jingshi. Gongsun Cha also knew that this plan was not realistic and continued, we do not need to guess what will happen next. Kunlun and Tianhuan will use our weakness by infiltrating the other powers and harass our transportation formations, even destroying them to destroy our connections to the outside world. Inhales sounded in the conference room. Those with the slightest bit of knowledge understood how great a blow it would be to Mo Cloud C if the situation came to that step. The problem is that even though we know what they will do next, we do not have many solutions. Lil Miss' expression was black. He had originally thought that they built Mo Cloud C to be impenetrable and hadn't expected that they had left such a fatal weakness. At this time, a paper crane suddenly appeared in Zuomo's hand. After Zuomo unfolded it and read through, he said coolly, 3 transportation formations were attacked at once, and 1 was destroyed. The conference room was deathly silent. Everyone had black expressions. Zuomo knew that Mo Cloud C was in a dangerous situation. At this time, he had to make a decision. Other than the crucial transportation formations, close all others, Zuomo said deeply. Angry flames burned in his eyes. His heart dripped blood. The closure of each transportation formation meant the loss of large amounts of jingshi. Mo Cloud C's economy was about to receive a great blow. For little Mo Gu, whose wealth was his life, this was like cutting his flesh. Breaking someone's path to riches was akin to killing one's parents. Zuomo's face twisted in pain. He was completely infuriated by the enemy's actions. If we have to suffer losses, then everyone will suffer with us. How can we be the only to lose? Zuomo gritted out. Our transportation formation Jinji have problems, their transportation formation Jinji will also have similar problems. They can infiltrate and destroy, we can do the same. When had Mo Cloud C ever been defeated like this? Hearing Zuomo's words, flames of anger rose in the eyes of the people who had been feeling frustrated. Zuomo was unusually angry. His eyes flashed with burning light like a wolf in the darkness. They will regret starting this. Yes. Lil Miss' black expression returned to normal and a smile like that of the neighbor's boy came back. This kind of small-scale infiltration is actually more advantageous for us. We have a smaller territory and is easier to defend. They are larger and there are openings everywhere. It will be difficult to prevent infiltration. Also, we do not need to limit ourselves to transportation formations. Attack any storage depots, any resource jia, if we get to their rear, we can cause pandemonium. Lil Miss' words immediately opened a door. All kinds of inspiration rose. Yes, we can assassinate important people. It is more profitable to assassinate those people who are not in high positions but are very important. For example, the masters in charge of managing production. Their guards will not be strong, the danger is low, and the benefit is high. Disrupt the peace. Ambush transportation boats. There's a place that you all forget, the place that teaches battle generals. If we get that, that place is rich. Maybe we can end a future genius battle general, that would be profitable. We need to plan for escape. We need to divide and conquer. The conference room that had just been deathly silent was now in heated discussion. As he listened, even Zhua Mo, the start of all this, felt a cold wave up his back. How could these people be so devious? Bi-Han looked at the paper crane that came from the rear and then crushed it before throwing it to the side. Have the Jinji been built? The construction has finished, Ma Fan responded. He was filled with puzzlement. Darren had acted the opposite of his usual strategy and built large amounts of Jinji here as though he was building a great defense line. Report on the progress of the battalions. Bi-Han's voice was icy. Ma Fan shook and then hurried to report. The Tongzi Battalion have already taken Eastern Spring Jia, finished reorganizing, and are waiting for next orders. A Xiaogu Battalion need 3 more days to reach their destination. However, they have already been detected by the scouts from the Mo Martial Alliance. The Grey Camp have arrived at the ambush spot without attracting any attention. Is there any movement from the reinforcements at Bright Mountain Jie? There are 2 Mo Martial battalions, one of them is 7 days away, the other further away, and will most likely arrive in 20 days, Ma Fan reported. Ma Fan had fought alongside Lil Miss since a long time ago, and always admired Lil Miss' powerful calculation. This time, when he followed Bi-Han, he found to his shock that Bi-Han was also precise and accurate in this field. Tongzi Battalion will keep resting, a Xiaogu Battalion will follow the original plan. Bi-Han's orders were clean and brisk. Yes. Ma Fan hurriedly answered. You are stationed here. Your mission is to stop the enemy battalion from making any sudden attacks, Bi-Han said. Yes. Ma Fan crisply acknowledged. Then he carefully asked, Darren, you. I will attack the reinforcements. Bi-Han treasured words like gold. Ma Fan's face turned white. Bright Mountain Jie has 2 Mo Martial battalions. Just guard the defense line. Bi-Han was expressionless. Ma Fan finally understood why Darren had built this defense line that seemed completely unnecessary. However, even with the defensive line, when Ma Fan thought of the 2 Mo Martial battalions they were facing, he still felt a great pressure. Even though Ma Fan's battalion was one of the best in defense from Mo Cloud Sea, he had never fought against Mo Martial battalion before. Any battalion led by a Mo Martial was astoundingly powerful. However, Bi-Han clearly did not intend to explain more to him. He led Sin Battalion to disappear in the darkness. Chapter 759, Wolfhead Thousand Monster Camp Im Fei Lei. Fei Lei was surprised by Liang Wei's youth but he quickly disguised the surprise in his eyes. I am Liang Wei. Liang Wei could see the other's surprise but he did not care. No matter who it was, they mostly reacted the same way when they saw his youthful face. Fei Lei's weathered face was filled with an experienced and steady presence. This caused Liang Wei to be filled with anticipation towards his battalion. Fei Lei did not like to waste his words. He said directly, please come with me. The group entered a concealed mountain valley. Through the narrow mouth of the valley, the space suddenly broadened out. A wave of noise came, the shouts of youths, and Liang Wei's heart beat uncontrollably. Entering his view were thousands of youths furiously cultivating. The white mist from the evaporation of sweat, dirt flying into the air, angry shouts and curses, constant explosions, the activity assaulted Liang Wei's senses. Liang Wei entered a daze, and Fei Lei's voice sounded distant to his ear. They are all individually outstanding. At the beginning, they cultivated Mo skills and then changed to Shen power. Each of them has a unique bloodline, and they do not have any barriers in the area of cultivation. They have progressed quickly. Up until now, they are still in the stage of rapid advancement. The length of this stage will be based on their age and talent, from about 3 to 10 years. Fei Lei was completely familiar with these youths that he had traveled over mountains and oceans to find and teach. They are outstanding in power compared to those of their age cohort. They can even match the disciples of those large sects and the prestigious families. We have excavated the power they possess in their blood. This is also the help that I can give them. However, regretfully, they are very immature as a battalion, and can only create a basic formation. Liang Wei refocused and was surprised. From his observation, these youths were, as Fei Lei said, outstanding individually in a match for the elite battalions that he had seen before. So many good talents, how could their higher-ups miss them? He didn't know the power of his higher-ups, but he knew that the mysterious faction would not lack for battle generals. At least Pu Pu himself was very powerful, and he would not be ignorant of the value of these strong outstanding youths. It did not require a strong battle general to carry out normal battalion training. However, his idleness in these years had sharpened his self-control. He asked without a change in expression, "Do they lack a battle general to guide them?" A grimace flashed across Fei Lei's weathered features. He shook his head, "That's not so." As expected, there was a problem. Liang Wei showed an intent expression. Fei Lei said coolly, "Their bloodlines were activated, which caused their individual power to skyrocket. Their Shen power cultivation benefited even more. However, the activated bloodlines caused their hidden personalities to take over, and they are very strange now." Strange? Liang Wei had a puzzled expression. Fei Lei glanced at Liang Wei, a hint of sympathy flashing through the depths of his eyes. "Yes, very strange." He pointed randomly to a youth sitting in meditation in the corner. "He is Ing Rong, he will meditate for 14 hours each day without exception. Anyone that goes within 10 zhang of him would receive his unconscious and indiscriminate attack." Unconscious and indiscriminate. Liang Wei gaped, his expression shocked. "Yes." Fei Lei seemed to not see Liang Wei's expression and said, "That's his instinct. While he will sincerely apologize to you after the matter, you may not be able to hear it then." "Why?" Liang Wei stilled. "Because if you are not seriously injured and unconscious, you are likely dead," Fei Lei said expressionlessly. "Look." As he spoke, he picked up a stone and threw at Ing Rong. The rock drew out a crescent in the air and flew within 10 zhang of Ing Rong. Ing Rong, who was in a meditative trance, shook and then opened his eyes. Shockingly, his eyes were completely white with no pupils. He jumped up and gave a strange snarl. Midair, his body suddenly gave off countless blade-like red energies. Hundreds of red energies headed like a storm towards the rock, flying at him. Poof! The fist-sized rock was immediately turned into powder. Ing Rong's body bounced and flew back to his original spot back in meditation. The powder drifted down. Liang Wei's mouth was open, his expression dazed. Ing Rong's problem is not that bad because other than the 14 hours in meditation, there is 10 hours where he is in a normal state. Fei Lei pointed at a half-naked large man. "He is Guang Long, he has the rare dragon bloodline that causes him to enter a berserker state. Once his battle lust is stirred, he will tear apart everything around him. It is very dangerous to spar with him." Guang Long's body was like a metal tower, his muscles bulging and giving off a great pressure. His blood-red eyes moved around as though he was hunting for prey to fill his stomach. After a moment, Liang Wei said in a rusty voice, "Are all of them like this?" Fei Lei nodded. "Give or take. They are born with the power of the bloodline, and the dangers come as well. However, there is one thing you can be certain of. They listen to orders. Of course, that's when they are normal. The battle generals around Liang Wei that had accompanied him had ashen expressions. In their eyes, these youths were dangerous monsters that would consume them at any time. We wanted to be battle generals, not beast trainers. They cried tears inside. They greatly regretted agreeing to taking this job. Many people had the impulse to chop off their hands. Why hadn't they resisted the temptation of the rewards? They should have thought of this. Anyone that pays a wage has a black heart. Liang Wei's expression gradually recovered from being pale. Then a vicious look flashed through his eyes. The wolf battle general who had once gone alone into the enemy released that blood-stained killing intent and determined presence once he made his decision. A look flashed through Fei Lei's eyes. He was shocked. It seemed this person that the higher-ups sent this time was someone good. The other battle generals were stimulated by that sharp and vicious killing intent. They finally remembered that Liang Wei was not the same as them. He was a battle general who had truly experienced the cruelest of fighting. The youths that were training were all sensitive and immediately noticed the astounding killing intent. They stopped and looked over. Who was this person? He clearly looked so weak, but he possessed such a murderous presence. Liang Wei smiled, and showed his wolf-like teeth that seemed to have blood on them. This battalion will be called the Wolf-Head Thousand Monster Camp. What's Bihan's goal? Quan Pei tried to make his voice sound normal, but people familiar with him could still hear the anxiety contained within. His second-in-command had been with him for many years and could hear this in his voice. He couldn't help but be shocked. This was the first time he had seen Darren so unconfident. Was Bihan so strong? He thought and then asked, what is Darren worried about? Quan Pei was tall, and his hair was white in places. He was not young, but his presence was elegant and gave people an endearing feeling. He was not young when he became a marshal, and didn't have the desire to compete with others. Due to this, he did not hesitate when he was invited to join the Mo Martial Alliance. He was not outstanding among the Mo marshals of the alliance, but he was a steady person with a good and gentle nature. Due to his popularity, and his familiarity with the military, he was assigned to an important position. Quan Pei knew his abilities. He knew that he wasn't some great general, and so he did not compete. Even in these turbulent times, he hoped that he could peacefully live out his remaining days and benefit his descendants. He had never thought that there would be a day that he would be forced to face a top battle general like Bihan. In these past years, the Mo territories had completely changed. Many of the old great names continued to disappear and many unheard of names shone and ascended in this new era. Quan Pei knew he was old in age, and could not keep up with this changing era. Just as he knew that nothing good would come of this mission. Bihan was a person that was ranked as a top 10 battle general in the Shouja world. This showed his power. This was a true top battle general. Battle generals of this level were not ones that he could win against. In the Mo Martial Alliance, probably only the young battle generals of the new era, like Shi, Shang Yusheng, and Hai Jin Yun who would match him. Quan Pei grimaced inside. 7 years, a change in era. Marshal D and the others were still the leaders, but they all knew that with each passing day, they got closer to the passing of the torch, the death of an era. Shen power was the root cause pushing all this. It could be seen from the inner structure of the alliance. The higher-ups started to deliberately set up a path for the new generation that cultivated Shen power. More and more young people started to take up important positions. The Mo Martial Alliance was not the only one, most of the Mo powers were doing the same, the only exception was the Mo Shen Temple. Shang Yusheng Battalion, and Hai Jinyun Battalion were racing to reinforce this area. The alliance also knew that Quan Pei alone could not stop Bihan. Nothing, I am worried about nothing. Have everyone stay alert and be on their guard. Quan Pei exhaled deeply, his voice finally returning to normal. He was an experienced battle general. He knew how great the damage to the battalion's morale was if the main commander did not appear calm. He only needed to delay Bihan and fight for the time needed for the reinforcements to arrive. When he thought of this, he felt slightly more confident. Shang Yusheng and Hai Jinyun were the genius battle generals that had appeared in the Mo Martial Alliance in these past years. They were young but possessed unparalleled talent. They had proven their strength in cruel battles. If it wasn't for them, the expansion of the Mo Shan Temple would be even more difficult to restrain. The two of them were top battle generals as well. If he could delay Bihan, two top battle generals were about to arrive. Bihan definitely would not have it easy. Maybe, they could kill Bihan. Quan Pei was filled with confidence in the two genius youths of the alliance. Suddenly, Quan Pei, who felt slightly more reassured, looked into the distance and his pupils contracted. An intimidating battalion had silently appeared on his right flank. Bihan. Chapter 760, Zhong Ru and Yi Qin. Yi Zheng's expression was nervous and concerned. He didn't dare to look away from Zhong Ru's face. Zhong Ru's appearance had changed greatly. While Zhong Ru had been of average appearance before, he had a strong body like most Diana Xiu. Yet now Zhong Ru's body was thin, his cheeks sunken. Only his eyes were bright as though he could see through everything. There was always a small warm and friendly smile on his face. The red lotus on his forehead was like holy fire. Zhong Ru's withered fingers moved away from Yi Zheng's Shixiang's body. Master Zhong, how is my Shixiang? Are there any solutions? Yi Zheng's heart was in his throat. Yi Zheng's Shixiang also opened his eyes, which flashed with shock. Actually, he had been greatly shocked when he saw Zhong Ru. The other's thin body had clearly been caused by the constant corrosion of wish power, but that pair of shining eyes seemed to peer straight into his heart. It was the first time that he had the feeling that someone was unfathomable in power. And when Zhong Ru's two fingers touched his wrist, the gentle and pure Shan power caused him to feel a rare comfort and made him relax. There are no big problems. Zhong Ru smiled, his voice filled with a comforting power. Yi Zheng's heart immediately calmed. Joy came onto Yi Zheng's face. I just knew that Master Zhong could heal Shixiang. Zhong Ru smiled slightly. A jade scroll appeared on his hand that he handed to Yi Zheng's Shixiang. This is a record of some of the things I learned during my seclusion and a method to cultivate Shan power. As long as you cultivate according to this, in a short time, you will heal. Your skill in Samadhi is rare and will be beneficial to your cultivation. Zhong Ru then turned and said to Yi Zheng. Cultivate together with your Shixiang. If you have any questions, ask your Shixiang. Many thanks, Master Zhong. The two gratefully thanked him. Zhong Ru waved his hands. There's no need to be so courteous, but you will not be able to tell others of this cultivation method. The two gravely acknowledged with solemn expressions. A moment later, Zhong Ru suddenly raised his head and with a deep gaze said, in a few months, your wounds will start to recover. There is something that I want to ask of you. Yi Zheng hurriedly said, Master Zhong, please speak of any matter. Yi Zheng's Shixiang also said, Master Zhong, please tell us. In our Mo Cloud Sea, the Diana Xiu branch is weak. Other than myself, there are no others with significant achievements, Zhong Ru said with a smile. My path as a Diana Xiu was rocky, and only received good fortune after meeting Darren. I only managed to develop this after seclusion. If I hide this method, it will be a great pity. Darren also wishes to increase the number of Diana Xiu in Mo Cloud Sea. However, I have no mind for this matter and so will ask the two of you to carry it out. Yi Zheng scratched his head. There are too few Diana Xiu in Mo Cloud Sea, and the ones here are not strong. Everyone isn't willing to be a Diana Xiu. Yi Zheng was right. In Mo Cloud Sea, Diana Xiu was a rare occupation. This was related to the fact that Mo Cloud Sea lacked a top-ranked Diana Xiu. In the past, the strongest had been Zhong Ru. Even though he was powerful, he was still weak when compared to others in Mo Cloud C. Most in Mo Cloud C cultivated the sword. Wei Xing's terrifyingly unparalleled power was revered by countless followers. The famed Vermilion Bird camp was also mostly comprised of sword shio. Most importantly, Mo Cloud C had created an unique sword cultivation method, such as the sword essence comprehending formation. Then it was the seal shio. A seal shio with a good foundation could find a relatively good job in Mo Cloud C. Also, Golden Crow Camp possessed a complete set of seal cultivation jade scrolls that could teach seal shio to cultivate. There were not many roaming shio and dhyana shio in Mo Cloud C. Yet what people did not know was that Xian Kong Temple's Sutra Pavilion had landed in Zhuomo's hands. That was the biggest factor in Zhong Ru being able to come out of seclusion. It was these profound dhyana shio records and Zhuomo's Shen Power Jade Scrolls that had formed the foundation for Zhong Ru to comprehend another kind of Shen Power. After stealing Xian Kong Temple's succession, Zhuo felt it really was a waste to leave it lying unused. Then there was the matter of Heartleaf Dhyana Sect's attack. While Mo Cloud C had pressed the Heartleaf Dhyana Sect, the other had presented documents and said that these people had been exiled from Heartleaf Dhyana Sect half a year ago. Angered, Zhuo started to think of other solutions. The two biggest powers that held back Kunlun and Tian Huan were Shi Xian and the Nine Great Dhyana Sect. While the Nine Great Dhyana Sect also possessed a top battle general in Yang Yuan Hao, they had many inner conflicts to deal with. Zhuo had originally thought of selling Shen equipment to increase the power of the Nine Great Dhyana Sects to fight against Kunlun and Tian Huan. The matter of Heartleaf Dhyana Sect caused Zhuo to smell danger. Kunlun's and Tian Huan's infiltration of the Nine Great Dhyana Sect had progressed far more than he had predicted. If a conflict did erupt, there probably would not be many sects that would really fight back. Since Kunlun and Tian Huan could infiltrate the Nine Great Dhyana Sects, why couldn't they do the same? Zhong Ru asked, "What do you think of the Nine Great Dhyana Sects?" Yi Zheng was slightly puzzled. He didn't understand what Master Zhong was talking about, but Yi Zheng's Shixiang did. After a moment of thought, he said, "Too many people, too many desires, a group of rabble. Would you be willing to go to the Nine Great Dhyana Sects?" Zhong Ru asked. Yi Zheng's Shixiang suddenly understood, his eyes brightening. Does Mo Cloud C plan to infiltrate the Nine Great Dhyana Sects? Yes. Zhong Ru did not refute it. It was better to speak of this matter clearly. He continued, "The present Nine Great Dhyana Sects cannot stop Kunlun and Tian Huan. I do not know about the Great Buddha Temple, but sects like the Heartleaf Dhyana Sect have been completely infiltrated." Yi Zheng's Shixiang was silent. If Kunlun and Tian Huan take down the Nine Great Dhyana Sects, Mo Cloud C will not have a barrier any longer. "This is why we came up with this idea," Zhong Ru said. Mo Cloud C does not want to swallow the Nine Great Dhyana Sects. Yi Zheng's Shixiang suddenly asked. "It is not that we do not want to, but we cannot," Zhong Ru said honestly. "We need a barrier more than increasing our territory. You want to turn the Nine Great Dhyana Sects into a bog to delay Kunlun and Tian Huan?" Yi Zheng's Shixiang had a sharp gaze. "You overestimate the Nine Great Dhyana Sects," Zhong Ru said coolly. Yi Zheng's Shixiang was silent. Zhong Ru was right. The Nine Great Dhyana Sects did not have this power unless someone could unite the Nine Great Dhyana Sects. However, this was impossible, even Xian Kong Temple had not been able to do it. No matter if it is Kunlun or Tian Huan, if they win, the Dhyana Shio will become subordinates. If Mo Cloud C luckily wins, you will not have to worry about this. Please do not worry. No matter if you are willing to complete this task or not, I will not take away this jade scroll." Zhong Ru looked at Yi Zheng's Shixiang. A moment later, Yi Zheng's Shixiang said, "What do I need to do?" "First, you need to recover, cultivate Shen power and increase your strength." Zhong Ru's eyes flashed with intelligence. Only when you are strong will you have the right to speak. Then, we will give you more support, including money and resources to help you obtain a higher status in the sect. You know the situation of Great Buddha Temple better than I do. Based on my knowledge, the Great Buddha Temple is not ranked high among the 9 great dhyana sects. For you, this is a chance. If you can increase the influence of Great Buddha Temple, you will receive more support from inside the temple. Yi Jing twisted his mouth, his face unwilling. He was very displeased about returning to Great Buddha Temple. He had felt the cold-heartedness of the world there, and what had been left were not good memories. His Shixiang listened carefully. Our personnel support will be very limited. Mo Cloud C has too few dhyana shio. Zhongru was helpless, but he quickly gave other suggestions. However, we will help you investigate the other sects for disciples that are strong but overlooked. It will be up to you to recruit them. Yi Jing's Shixiang nodded. I understand. Yi Jing's personality is not suited to this. I can go alone. Yi Jing was panicked upon hearing this and jumped up. No. Shixiang. Shixiang looked sternly at Yi Jing. Yi Jing respected his Shixiang greatly and immediately quieted down. You have a straightforward personality and cannot disguise your emotions. You are not suited to doing this, Shixiang said in a gentle voice. You are also at a good time for cultivating, do not waste that. Do not waste the good fortune of being with Master Zong. But Yi Jing started. Also, while there are many things wrong with the temple, I grew up in the temple since childhood, how can I watch as it declines? Great Buddha Temple's situation is already terrible. Shixiang had a nostalgic expression as he said emotionally. Yi Jing could not find anything to say. Both for the common good and for me personally, Yi Qing needs to thank Zhongru and Zhua Mo Darren. Yi Qing bowed to Zhongru. If there is a day that the 9 great dhyana sects are defeated, Yi Qing requests to enter Mo Cloud C for protection. Zhongru looked deeply at Yi Qing and thought inside, these large sects were full of geniuses. In his view, Yi Jing was a good talent, and he hadn't expected the other's Shixiang to be even better. The other had good vision, and if it wasn't for being hampered by his injury for a long time, he would not have declined to such a state. After being reborn now, this person would soar in the sky. I can promise you this. Mo Cloud C will accept even the Yao, how can we not accept the dhyana shio? Zhongru said gravely. Yi Qing is willing to do this. Yi Qing bowed the bow of a subordinate. Zhongru's expression was slightly happy. Yi Qing's bow expressed that he accepted his status with Mo Cloud C. He reached out and helped Yi Qing's up. This matter is greatly dangerous, be careful. If it cannot be accomplished, prioritize your safety, you are more important than anything else. Yi Qing's heart felt warmed. Yi Qing understands. Zhongru said in a deep voice, I have not named this Shen power. Starting from today, you will be its creator. Seeing Yi Qing about to speak, Zhongru waved his hand to stop the other and said, reputation is meaningless to me. However, it can help up accumulate fame. Reputation is a kind of power. If you can use it appropriately, it can save you great effort in your mission. Yi Qing was full of admiration. He had never heard of Zhongru before, yet the personality and strength that Master Zong displayed were all that of a great dhyana shio. But I need to speak to you of the origins of this Shen power, Zhongru said gravely. This Shen power has been greatly influenced by Darren's, Mo Cloud Shen power, but its origin is Xian Kong Temple's secret, empty meditation. Yi Qing and Yi Jing seemed to be struck by lightning, motionless like statues, when they heard this. Chapter 761, The Changes of the Little Ones. There were all kinds of strange scents floating off Chun Yucheng's Cloud Island. Zhua Mo was reminded about this each time he came, especially the smell of fresh ling grasses mixed with all kinds of waste. It was torture. Chun Yucheng's expression was intoxicated. Such a fresh and healthy smell. Suemo smiled helplessly. Chun Shidi was more and more enchanted with animal husbandry and his temper had become strange. The other was all right with him, but was not friendly to others, especially disliking people coming onto his cloud island. There were many kinds of ling and mo grasses planted on the island to feed the cloud seeds. Suemo had not seen many of these ling grasses before. They flashed with enchanting lights which meant that their grade was not low. In the present mo cloud sea, Suemo's half-assed ling plant farmer skill was laughable. The ling plant farmers of mo cloud sea were unlike the ling plant farmers anywhere else. They were skilled in using seal formations and their effectiveness was higher. This was an unique system that mo cloud sea's strong forging abilities provided the support for. Cloud Sea Jie did not have many ling fields and the ling plant farmers were mostly gathered in the Jie with large tracts of ling fields. The ling grasses on Chun Shidis Island were relatively high grade, and the skill of the ling plant farmers were relatively high as well. How are they? Suemo asked in concern. You should have sent them a long time ago. Chun Yucheng's expression was pained as he chatted, if you sent them in a bit later, they would have been wasted. Oh, it wouldn't have been useful if you sent them over earlier, I hadn't found out how to raise cloud steeds then, you picked a good opportunity. Suemo felt tormented by Chun Shidis' excessive chatter. He tried to endure. People like Chun Shidi had unusual enthusiasm and obsession with their own field and didn't care about anything else. They did not understand how to interact with people, and rarely conversed with other people. Most of them had strange personalities. On the other hand, they had outstanding talent and they worked furiously, unaffected by anything else. They usually achieved more in their own field than other people. Suemo could understand them. Chattering endlessly on the way, they finally came to the beast pool from last time. Chun Yucheng became alert and didn't waste words. 10th grade and sunshine are good, especially 10th grade. His killing energy is thick and he is a rare vicious being. I used the hunt blood pool to nurture his body. This will increasing his killing energy. He uses the sword and I asked eldest Shixiang to find the most vicious sword scripture for him. Most vicious scripture. Suemo felt a cold sweat. If it was the most vicious sword scripture that Chun Shidi could find, he would just smile and dismiss it. But if it was eldest Shixiang, then it definitely was the most vicious sword scripture. Chun Yucheng had a smug expression. I don't really understand sword scriptures, but since eldest Shixiang said it was the most vicious, then it definitely is. 100 sacrificed souls killing sword. How about it, just this name seems very powerful. Suemo's body couldn't help but shake. He knew this sword scripture. This had been from Pu's collection. Pu had said back then that the 100 sacrificed souls killing sword was not the strongest sword scripture, but could be said to be one of the most vicious. At this time, Suemo had not been affected by Pu Yao's emotional opinion. He didn't have much interest in cultivating sword scriptures. Suemo thought of another problem and couldn't help but ask, can 10th grade cultivate? 10th grade was not like eldest Shixiang. He originated from a ling beast and was not like a Xiuzha. He had never heard of a ling beast cultivating a sword scripture. I had worried about this before, but I found later on that 10th grade is very intelligent and matched well with this sword scripture. There isn't a problem at all. Chun Yucheng's expression of pride grew as he seemed to ask for praise. Shixiang, when the time comes, you will have a super sidekick. 10th grade's name was really chosen with great foresight. Shixiang, did you predict a long time ago that he could reach 10th grade? Suemo's expression was righteous. Of course. Otherwise, how can I be your Shixiang? That's true. Chun Yucheng nodded seriously. As expected, those that are Shixiang are all strong. Shixiang, you are strong, Gongsun Shixiang is also strong, but eldest Shixiang is the strongest. Why? Suemo thought, had Chun Shidi grown powerful enough that he could see people's power? Because he's Gongsun Shixiang Shixiang Shixiang. Chun Yucheng's expression was matter-of-fact. Of course he is the strongest. Sui Mo was speechless. He quickly changed the topic. Sunshine. Chun Yucheng fell for it as expected. Sunshine's attributes are the opposite of 10th grade. His specialties are healing, protection, and assistance. If 10th grade is Yin, then Sunshine is Yang. Therefore, the beast pool that I picked is the water flesh wood bone pool. For Sunshine I did not choose spells, but Yao arts. Looking at the excitement on Chun Yucheng's face, Sui Mo perceptively asked, "Oh, what great Yao art is it?" "Ha! Shixiang, you understand me the best." Chun Yucheng laughed proudly. Increasing his volume, he said joyfully, "It is the universal life that has been said to be the essential art for super nannies. Oh, the Yao like to call the people who cultivate this Yao art nannies. I feel it is very accurate. Other than this, he also cultivates ward-breaking art. Shixiang, don't worry. Under my great care, Sunshine can definitely move into the ranks of the top nannies. Such an adorable nanny." Looking at the snowy white and handsome Sunshine, Sui Mo seemed to see him wearing an apron and holding a bottle in his hand. He couldn't help but shudder. He immediately felt sympathy for Sunshine, but when his words reached his mouth, it became, "Sure this results are masterworks." Chun Yucheng became more excited upon receiving Sui Mo's praise. He pulled Sui Mo over and said excitedly, "As expected, Shixiang understands me best. Those people do not understand the greatness and holiness of husbandry. This is a kind of creation, a novel creation. I am fated to be the man that will create the strongest ling beasts." Sui Mo wiped the cold sweat away from his face as he nodded. "Shidi is ambitious. I admire this." Chun Yucheng smiled and pulled Sui Mo to a tall Dan cauldron. "I asked Golden Crow Camp to forge this Dan cauldron. I also got Sun Bao and Ji Wei to operate it for a few days. It is a pity that I couldn't find them later on. The other people said that they went out." Chun Yucheng's tone was full of regret. "If they are here, this fire will definitely be stronger." Sui Mo, who knew about the entire matter, sighed again. He was filled with sympathy towards Sun Bao and Ji Wei. Chun Yucheng usually did not show himself in public, but he was Sui Mo's Shidi. His status in Mo Cloud Sea was high. If his requests were not ridiculous, no one would dare refuse him. Due to this, when they received a request for help, Sun Bao and Ji Wei had hurried over despite their heavy workload. But Chun Yucheng had the two of them act as cauldron workers. Heavens, the two masters of Golden Crow Camp, the two top people in charge of all the seal shio in Mo Cloud Sea acting as manual laborers, and for 3 days. When they reached 3 days, they did not relent to Chun Yucheng's invitation, and fled with their ash-covered faces. I couldn't find them no matter what I tried. I could only hire some of the experienced people from Golden Crow Camp. However, they are lacking compared to Sun Bao and Ji Wei, but still acceptable." Chun Yucheng was clearly slightly displeased. "It's fine if it is about the same." Sui Mo hurriedly comforted. "That's true." Chun Yucheng thought and said with a tilted head, "This Dan cauldron is good and the people later on worked hard. The results aren't bad." Shixiang Shen fire was also crucial and beneficial to Lil Fire's growth. However, Lil Fire is slightly less intelligent compared to 10th grade and Sunshine. But it is an Yao beast to begin with and has no trouble cultivating Yao arts. I found a fire Yao art in the Pu Wei library called the Fire Heartbone Refining Art for it. Sui Mo stilled and instinctively asked, "Lil Fire has bones?" Lil Fire had ended up in Sui Mo's demonic hands many times and he had squeezed the other countless times. In Sui Mo's memories, Lil Fire was like a rubber ball, and didn't have any bones. It does. When it came to his profession, Chun Yucheng's expression immediately became serious. There are many small bones inside its body similar to sea sponges. These bones are very small and flexible. Their structure is very flexible and resilient, so Lil Fire appears as though it is boneless. Oh, so this cultivation will thicken its bones and have it become more powerful? Xuemo asked with anticipation. Powerful? Chun Yucheng shook his head with bewilderment. I don't know that. I only felt that these kind of bones were rare and wanted to try cultivating it. Xuemo's face was black as a pot. Even you don't know the result? No, this is normal. It is hard to predict the results of many husbandry trials. Chun Yucheng said with a righteous tone. But when Chun Yucheng turned and saw Xuemo's black face, he knew it was not good. He was so friendly this time because he had a goal. If he ruined the matter, it would be terrible. He hurriedly pulled Xuemo to another place. Unlike the other beast pools, there was a kind of vine growing here that Xuemo had never seen. It grew over multiple mu of fields, and under the thick vines, there was a transparent bubble that hung below. Lil Black seemed to see Xuemo from within the bubble. It furiously moved its legs, but no matter how it moved, it only spun around in the water bubble. Shi Xiang, look, this is the water bubble vine, Chun Yucheng hurriedly introduced. It can grow this a special kind of water bubble, and is a natural beast pool. Also, Shi Xiang, take a look. As he spoke, he pulled away the thick leaves covering the ground and showed a beast pool. Xuemo found that the roots of the water bubble vine grew into the beast pool. The medicine in the beast pool is absorbed by the root system and then gathers in the water bubbles. This process is even more wondrous than the seal formations we engrave. All kinds of medicines can merge together in the water bubble and form a natural beast pool. Xuemo was also attracted by such a wondrous beast pool. Chun Yucheng saw the interest on Xuemo's face and continued, the medicine absorbed will change slightly through the vine's roots and leaves. This is also the source of its great ability. However, because the water bubbles are not very big, it can only be used on those relatively small beasts. I saw Lil Black and immediately thought of the water bubble vine. What is its use to Lil Black? Xuemo went directly for the core of the matter. Shi Xiang, don't be shocked when you hear this. Chun Yucheng was both smug and mysterious. Chapter 762, The Bird with the Domineering Presence, Speak. Xuemo glared at Chun Yucheng. The smugness on Chun Yucheng's face did not decrease. He lowered his voice and spoke softly as if revealing the greatest secret, Lil Black is sensitive to Ling energy. This is why it can find treasures. However, I discovered after studying that its ability lies with its pair of antennae. Also, it isn't just able to detect to Ling energy, it is able to detect to many things such as killing energy, warmth, and presence. However, in reality, what it is sensitive to is vibration. Vibration? Xuemo's expression was shocked. This answer was unexpected. Yes, vibration. Chun Yucheng's expression became grave. This is the true reason it can find treasures. Ling veins and talismans have unique Ling power vibrations, and it would find these treasures through these vibrations. The usual husbandry method would strengthen its antennae to make it more sensitive, use Ling medicine filled with Ling power to stimulate its antennae, so it becomes familiar to the vibrations of Ling power and become more sensitive to that energy. However, Ling power is already being retired, and Shen power is more powerful. But Shen power has vibrations. At the core, there is no difference, they are all different kinds of power. I thought that if it could remember vibrations of Shen power, couldn't it be able to find treasures with Shen power? The more he spoke, the more excited Chun Yucheng got. Therefore, I found all kinds of materials with Shen power. However, these materials are really expensive and there are too few. Speaking of this, Bao Yi is a penny pincher. Every time I go to get materials from him, that person looks like a miser, I get so angry. Chun Yuqing gritted his teeth when he spoke of Bao Yi, but Sua Mo did not care. Bao Yi's personality was so, and, as a result, he was the best choice of personnel to manage the stores. Otherwise, Sua Mo's little bit of wealth would not be enough for these people to madly waste. Did it succeed? Sua Mo was more concerned with this. Chun Yuqing was angry about Bao Yi, but that was because of the conflict over the materials. The two didn't have any actual personal conflict, and so Sua Mo's question immediately shifted the topic of conversation away. He hesitated, and then said haltingly, "Theoretically, it should be a success. In reality?" Sua Mo immediately saw through his little trick. "I don't know. Chun Yuqing might use some simple and clumsy moves, but he would not lie, especially when it came to his field. The entire process was very smooth, but I have no confidence in the result. No one has ever done this before, and I cannot find any examples. Therefore, I will only know what level it reached when it all pans out." Chun Yuqing was afraid that Sua Mo would have high hopes and be greatly disappointed, so he poured cold water. "However, we cannot rush this. Even if it recognizes Shen power vibrations, there is a problem of sensitivity. If it is not sensitive toward Shen power, then there is no value. However, I am certain that this is definitely the direction that Ling beasts, Yao beasts, and Mo steeds will develop in. Shen power is the best path." "You did good." Sua Mo was certain about Chen Shi's results. He was not someone who did not have foresight. He knew that what looked like it to run a business, anything that was unable to produce value today could still be an important step. "Will anything happen to Lil Black?" Sua Mo looked at Lil Black, who was spinning in the water bubble, and couldn't help but ask. "What do you mean?" Chun Yuqing stilled. "Things like life-threatening danger," Sua Mo explained. The little ones had followed him for many years, and Sua Mo didn't really care if they were strong or not. However, he definitely would not like any accidents happening to them. Life-threatening danger? Chun Yuqing's face flushed red, and so did his neck, as though he was being humiliated greatly. He said loudly, "So in Shixiang's eyes, my skill is so low." Sua Mo had not expected that his mindless words would cause such a great response from Qing Shidi. He hurriedly bowed, apologized, and comforted with gentle words to pacify the fires of Qing Shi's anger. Fortunately, Chun Yuqing's temper left as fast as it came. When the two reached Lil Pagoda's beast pool, he had completely forgotten about the incident, and became excited again. Lil Pagoda is actually different from the other little ones. He's a talisman, and also Shixiang's soul bond talisman. Theoretically, husbandry methods cannot be used on him, but he actually is the most intelligent of the little ones after Silly Bird. Its body forms a complete system, from the 5-element attribute to the dual attributes of yin and yang. I don't know anything about forging, but I understand Ling beasts. Lil Pagoda's highly intelligent and not very different from Ling beasts. It knows best about what it needs. Sua Mo listened carefully. Of the little ones, he liked the cute Lil Pagoda the most. It can consume all kinds of materials and then deconstruct them into pure yin and yang base essence. Its body is filled with the base essence of yin and yang. However, these two base essence powers are clearly divided and repel each other. This situation has occurred in many Ling beasts that have dual attributes, such as fire and water. If they come into conflict, the Ling beast will feel great pain and the power of the Ling beast will be greatly reduced. The crux to solving this problem is to merge these two completely opposite powers so they will subdue and augment each other like the fire lotus in water, that is frequently seen. Yin and yang is even easier to balance. They have a perfect merging method, the yin-yang fish. Once in his zone, Chun Yuqing seemed to be a completely different person. His body gave off a presence of great self-confidence. He waved his arms, his voice strong. The most important requirement to forming the yin-yang fish is that yin and yang have to reach an absolute equilibrium. When the two reach a true equilibrium, the yin-yang fish will naturally form. Therefore, I continued to feed yin and yang materials to it to adjust the strength of the yin and yang powers. Just as I expected, Shixiang look. Before Chen Yuqing finished, Li Pagoda in the medicine pool had detected Zhuo Mo's arrival and happily dove into Zhuo Mo's arm. Zhuo Mo picked it up by the tip of the power and held it in front of him. Lil Pagoda happily waved its black eaves. This guy was even fatter. Zhuo Mo thought hatefully. No matter if it was the top of the tower, the body, or the eaves, they were even rounder than before. What had changed the most was the level just underneath the tip of the tower. There were two little yin-yang fish that looked like two eyes. What made Zhuo Mo speechless was that Lil Pagoda could use its fat body to squeeze the yin-yang fish. It appeared as though its eyes were blinking. This guy's truly intelligent. Zhuo Mo muttered in joy. Feeling Zhuo Mo's happiness, Lil Pagoda used its round body to snuggle in Zhuo Mo's hand. Don't snuggle, you idiot, you swallowed so much materials, you'll have to sell yourself to pay back. Zhuo Mo said harshly. But his hand was gentle as he put this growing glutton onto his shoulder. Lil Pagoda's little Eve hands flapped even more happily. It jumped from Zhuo Mo's right shoulder to his left and back again as it played happily. It really is intelligent. Chen Yuqing couldn't help but say. It is the first time I have seen such an intelligent talisman. How about silly bird? Zhuo Mo asked. That's another one. Chen Yuqing's expression became even more spectacular. He then said, Shixiang, come with me, and see. Coming to the lava pool from last time, silly bird still had an expression of idle enjoyment. This bird is no ordinary bird. Chen Yuqing couldn't help but say. Its intelligence is fantastical. Look at its feathers. Following Chen Yuqing's finger, Zhuo Mo looked and immediately found that silly bird's feathers were bright red and unusually grand. What was the most difficult to comprehend was that the feathers would give off threads of flame. Zhuo Mo's eyes widened as he exclaimed, Phoenix feathers. You recognized it. Chen Yuqing sounded as though he was sleep-talking, even though he had seen this numerous times before. The legends say the feathers of the phoenix are as red as blood and can give off unique flames. With one flap of their wing can create a sea of fire. Phoenixes regenerate, are born accompanied by fire, and will die accompanied by fire. Zhuo Mo was dumbstruck. It doesn't have any bloodline of a phoenix, I hadn't expected that it could become a phoenix. Truthfully, I'm not sure if a phoenix is something like this. I've never seen one before. But even if silly bird isn't a phoenix, it is not much lesser in comparison. Also, this isn't its strongest trait. Refocusing, Zhuo Mo blurted out, then what? Her physical body. Chen Yuqing's expression was grave. Her body is astounding, powerful and resilient, stronger than those Mo physiques. I threw many Yao arts and spells at her and she ignored them all. I found Mo's skill to throw at her. She took a glance but then threw it away. I finally understood that she desired to cultivate Mo skills. She wanted to cultivate Mo skills. Zhuo Mo stammered out a question. This matter clearly was beyond the limits of his imagination. Yes. Chen Yuqing nodded seriously and then said, so I started to search for Mo skills that were suitable. I hadn't thought that she would be extremely picky. I found more than a dozen Mo skills but she wasn't satisfied. You know that I'm very busy and I don't have the time to search through them. I threw all the high-level Mo skills we had at her for her to choose. Chen Yuqing had a conflicted expression. I hadn't expected for this one to actually choose one. Zhuo Mo's expression also became strange. Which one did she chose? Solitary Dance of the Great Dark Will Phoenix. Chen Yuqing said. Only after that did I think, is she actually a phoenix? However, I've never heard of a mortal bird ascending to become a phoenix. It is not rational. It is not rational at all. Chen Yuqing shook his head furiously as though he wanted to throw this thought out of his head. Solitary dance of the great dark wolf phoenix. Zhuo Mo was so shocked he was speechless. If his memory was correct, this Mo skill was one that Pu Yao said could not be successfully cultivated. This bird. Did she really get possessed by a phoenix? Zhuo Mo dazedly looked at silly bird who was soaking in the lava with an expression of enjoyment. As he looked, Zhuo Mo suddenly felt that silly bird's half-lidded eyes and expression of enjoyment did have a certain style. After thinking for a moment, he recalled the phrase, a domineering presence. Chapter 763, Chao Xin's Plan. What does the report from Thunder Sound Temple say? Lin Qian asked. Chao Xian shook his head. Nothing, they have been very low-key recently. Yang Yuanhao is training his battalion, his Thunder Sound battalion has been expanded threefold. It probably will take some time to finish training. The name Yang Yuanhao caused Lin Qian's gaze to unnoticeably focus. He asked, have we found Yang Yuanhao's origins? Yes. He is originally the disciple of the second elder of Thunder Sound Temple, but he was not thought of highly before. When the Thunder Sound Shen methodology appeared, he was spectacular and rose up to quickly become the best battle general of Thunder Sound Temple, and the best of the 9 great Dhyana sect. However, this is already related to his master. The second elder is the younger brother of the sect leader. Chao Xian was unbridled in nature, but he was careful and attentive when doing his work and was deeply relied upon by Lin Qian. Other than Thunder Sound Temple, is our progress in the other temples going well? Lin Qian asked. Thunder Sound Temple, Splendid Buddha Temple, Venerable Lotus Temple, Laughing Maitreya Temple, it has not been smooth in these 4 temples. Heart Leaf Temple has been heavily infiltrated by Tian Huan. The one that we have made the most progress is Skanda sect. We are fighting with Tian Huan for the others, Great Buddha sect, Karma Temple, Surangama Heart sect. Chao Xian knew all this like the back of his hand. It is not easy to infiltrate the great temples. Lin Qian smiled helplessly. Of course. Chao Xian took a sip of wine and said unconcernedly. We first aim for the borders, it is easy at first and then becomes difficult later, this is the right way. However, Heartleaf Dhyana sect's attack on Mo Cloud Sea seal formations is detrimental to our actions. Yes, it inadvertently alerted them. Lin Qian frowned. They are a group of idiots. Heartleaf Dhyana sect wants to show fealty towards Tian Huan and were impatient. I don't know who it was that found this weakness, but the skill of the mission was really terrible. No wonder Heartleaf Dhyana sect is ranked last among the 9 great Dhyana sects. Chao Xian shook his head and then said, but for Mo Cloud Sea, not being able to use the transportation formations is a noose around their throat. We also need to guard against this movement as we also have the same weakness of the transportation formations. Lin Qian nodded. Go do this. Chao Xian acknowledged. All right. However, none of them thought much of this as a great matter. The transportation formations were a weakness, but unlike Mo Cloud Sea who were overly reliant on the formations, Kunlun's transportation were mostly by Jie rivers. While they had to spend more time traveling, it was much cheaper. If Kunlun used transportation formations over all of its vast realm, then the expenses in this area would be enough to kill Kunlun. Due to this, most of Kunlun's transportation formations were set up in important places and these places almost all had battalions stationed there to guarantee safety. They only needed to increase the security level of the battalion stationed there. After Xue Sherdis battalion has finished expanding, why don't we use the 9 great Dhyana sects as an opening? Lin Qian asked Chao Xian. Chao Xian said unrestrainedly, that is not good. Lin Qian smiled, and poured another cup of wine for Chao Xian. He asked sincerely for guidance, then what should be done? The 9 great Dhyana sects have many people with different intentions. If they feel an outside threat, they would abandon their own aims, unite, and face the invaders. Thunder Sound Temple is the strongest, and once they unite, with a top battle general like Yang Yuan Hao, they would be a hard bone to swallow. Lin Qian was thoughtful. Chao Xian raised his wine cup and threw his head back to drink. He was full of enthusiasm. But if we treat them peacefully, without threatening their existence, the inner conflicts will gradually become evident. We can scheme and recruit a portion of them, moving in the shadows. The 9 great Diana sects will be defeated without any attack over time. This is the best plan. You are right. Lin Qian was full of admiration and then turned to another problem. Then in which direction should we expand? 100 Savage Realm. Chao Xin's voice was loud, a blush on his face. The Nether Realms produced a king, and is an enemy on the same level as us. We should not really fight them. Also, we know little about the Nether Realms, and it is not wise to enter. But 100 Savage Realm is full of warlords, and the best place to begin. As his interests were stirred, Chao Xian became half-dressed as he drank multiple cups. His gaze was intoxicated as he said slowly, looking at the world right now, Tian Huan, the Nether King and the Yao are enemies of the same level as us, they all possess one realm of land, have any experts and generals. But if one looks closely, there are differences. Kunlun, Tian Huan, and the Nether Realm were integrally united. The Yao Elder Council constantly fights internally for power. The new generation as led by Ming Yuyi and the older generation led by the Chief Elder are fighting in secret. This is an opportunity for our Kunlun. Lin Qian's eyes lit up. We will secretly support Ming Yuyi. Chao Xian smiled and then shook his head. No. Ming Yuyi's wings are not grown yet. Our benefit from supporting her will be limited, and once she is in power, the first thing that she will do is to reorganize the Council of Elders in order to get them to be of one mind, and then bite us. Then we will suppress Ming Yuyi. Lin Qian asked in response. We will support a third faction. Chao Xian was bright with light. 3 factions fighting is a state of equilibrium, and the one able to cause sustained infighting. Also, both the Chief Elder and Ming Yuyi will need to fight to gain support of the new faction. Most importantly, the third faction would be the weakest faction, and cannot break free of our control. Great plan. Lin Qian sighed. Chao Xin's excitement settled slightly and he said with a light laugh, we cannot rush this, and need to plan this slowly. It will probably take 5 to 10 years for it to be effective. Lin Qian laughed out loud. I am still young. 10 years, I can even wait even if it is 20 years. Chao Xian nodded. It is not easy for Darren to have such a state of mind. Mo Cloud C has challenged the Mo Martial Alliance, Mr., what do you feel they desire? Lin Qian mentioned another topic. For some reason, he felt danger from Mo Cloud C. He always had a feeling that this little power that was just a few dozen jia would one day become his archenemy. This indescribable feeling of danger always made him extremely wary of Mo Cloud C's every move. It was unexpected to many that Mo Cloud C had suddenly started to attack Mo Martial Alliance. Chao Xin's brow also furrowed. It is slightly puzzling. This time, the main commander is Bihan. This shows how much importance they place on this campaign, it means that it is a big one. Also, it is Bihan and not Gongsun Chao. This also implies that their aim in the campaign this time is not to attack cities and take over territory, but more akin to rapidly destroying or capturing something. Bihan's battalions are also puzzling in their movements. Bihan is definitely disguising their intentions. We most likely will know the aim of a battle general of Bihan's level only when the battle is finished. Lin Qian was silent. Intentions. We need to find their intentions. Inside the conference hall, Hai Jinyun's voice echoed. His figure was tall yet thin, his complexion faintly gold, his eyes narrow and long. His cheeks were sunken inwards, his gaze as sharp as a sword and seemed able to penetrate people. His voice was thin and high-pitched, giving people a feeling of metal grinding. At this time, it was filled with great fury. Hao Jinyun's temper was easy to set off and he quickly became violent. The subordinates trembled, and the conference room was deathly silent. Hao Jinyun forced down the fury inside. He rubbed his forehead. His anger was not directed against his subordinates. He knew their skill level. He was angry at himself as he could not identify Bihan's intentions. When he learned that the enemy this time was Bihan, an unprecedented pressure filled him. However, this had not caused him to collapse but rather stimulated his strong fighting spirit. He felt his blood boil at the thought of fighting against such a top-level battle general. Yet as time went on, the movements of Bihan's campaigns became even harder to understand. If they could not find Bihan's true intentions, he would end up the reactive party. Facing a battle general of Bihan's level, it was enormously dangerous to be the reactive party. Several hours passed, and he received an insect message from an old general, Quan Pei. They had encountered Bihan. This was not of great surprise to him. He would not be surprised at any action that a battle general like Bihan would do. Also, from the location of the encounter, Bihan seemed to just be attacking the reinforcements. Was Bihan's goal really Bright Mountain Jie? He didn't believe it. But what reassured him slightly was that old General Quan Pei said in the insect message that they were delaying the other by using guerrilla tactics against them in order to drag on the battle for them to arrive. General Quan Pei's seemingly conservative strategy was actually the best in his view. They were fighting on home territory. If they could take up enough time, their advantage would increase like a snowball rolling off the mountain. Yet 8 hours passed, and Hao Jinyun did not receive any more insect letters from old General Quan Pei. This unusual situation caused Hao Jinyun to have a bad feeling. If the situation was normal, Quan Pei's second-in-command would send an insect message every 4 hours to report on the state of the battle. There were only 2 possibilities when there were no messages after 8 hours. One was that the battle was so intense that they didn't even have the time to send insect letters. The other possibility was that they had been completely eradicated. Based on convention, the first possibility was most likely. Quan Pei was skilled in battle formations. If he decided to enter a battle of attrition by relying on guerrilla fighting, he definitely would not be destroyed so easily. It was extremely difficult to exterminate a battalion that had decided to fight in a guerrilla fashion, much less finish it in 8 hours. However, as time advanced, Hao Jinyun's bad feeling increased. His emotions started to become restless. He tried to put his attention on searching for Bihan's target. So many dazzling and spectacular actions proved that Bihan had a clear goal in mind. He was only disguising it. Where is Shang Darren? He suddenly stopped walking and asked. Shang Darren has already reached Bright Home Jia, and is about 3 days away from us, the subordinate hurriedly said. Hao Jinyun suddenly stopped walking. There wasn't any restlessness to be seen in his eyes. He said in a deep voice, "Set up base here, and wait for Shang Darren." 10 hours had already passed. Hao Jinyun knew that the situation he had thought most unlikely probably already became reality. Chapter 764, 9 Great Diana Sects, Heartleaf Diana Sect. Suomo's expression was full of unfriendliness. He didn't have any good feelings about this sect who had suddenly attacked them and was said to be completely infiltrated by Tian Huan. While Heartleaf Diana sect had taken out a great amount of evidence to prove that the dozen people who had attacked had been expelled from the sect long ago, anyone with eyes could see that this was just an excuse. Our goal this time is Heartleaf Diana sect. Its mission is to settle the accounts from last time. No matter the time, Mo Cloud C is not one that would swallow and remain silent when someone bullies us. Suomo's words immediately aroused similar feelings in the group. Motherfucker. A little Heartleaf Diana sect dare to target us. They don't want to live. We will beat them up. Beat the up completely. Beat them until they kneel and beg for mercy. The large hall was immediately full of fury. People from Mo Cloud Sea never feared anything. They had fought against Kunlun and Tian Huan. They were proud and found it hard to tolerate a little faction like Heartleaf Diana sect attacking them. However, since they dare scheme against us, then we will play with them. Everyone, prepare, we will depart tomorrow. We will make them understand why we dare to challenge Kunlun and Tian Huan while they can only play with mud in the corner. Zhuo Mo's domineering announcement caused everyone's blood to boil. Soon, Zhuo Mo started to pick people. The ones chosen were happy and the ones that weren't had displeased expressions. Soon, Zhuo Mo picked out an elite team of about 50 people. It was not an exaggeration to say they were elite. Just looking at the membership of the team, it was possible to see how grand the composition was. Zhuo Mo, Agui, Wei Sheng, Zhong Ru, Luo Li, Tseng Lianer. He had picked almost all of the top experts of Mo Cloud Sea. The other people were also ones that had followed Zhuo Mo for many years. They were loyal to the point they could use their bodies to block a blow for Zhuo Mo. Other than this, Zhuo Mo also took along the little ones that had just finished leveling up. Zhuo Mo did not worry about the safety of Mo Cloud Sea at all. Lil Miss was in charge of Cloud Sea Jia, and the great majority of the transportation formations were closed. While it had affected their business activities, it also caused Mo Cloud Sea security to reach an unprecedented level. Right now, Mo Cloud Sea was truly a turtle hiding in its hard shell. The ambush from Heartleaf Diana sect caused Zhuo Mo to be full of anger. On the surface, Heartleaf Diana sect's attitude was very friendly. They apologized and also agreed to recompense them. If he led battalions to attack Heartleaf Diana sect and they had this kind of attitude, it was easy to cause all of the 9 great Diana sects to start fighting with Mo Cloud Sea. Zhuo Mo was still hoping that the 9 great Diana sect would be Mo Cloud Sea's shield. It was not profitable to start fighting due to one Heartleaf Diana sect. Heartleaf Diana sect was fearless because they knew this. There was nothing to criticize on the surface. Little Mo Gu was never one that was generous. His style was to always retaliate for any slights. Since they could not fight in the open, they would fight in the shadows. For the leaders of the other factions, they could not avoid feeling slightly repulsed by these types of schemes. But for Zhuo Mo, this was what he was truly skilled in. Purely based on power, Heartleaf Diana sect was not a match for Zhuo Mo, but this time, they were playing in the dark. Wei Sheng, Zhong Ru, Luo Li, they were all astoundingly powerful, and each of them could do things like kill people and defeat cities, but it was difficult for them to scheme. The one that was most skilled in scheming was undoubtedly Zhuo Mo. Without his direction, this would not succeed. The 9 great Diana sect had always had a close relationship to Mo Cloud Sea and the two sides had active business activity. The 9 great Diana sects had vast territories, and were abundant in resources. Mo Cloud Sea equipment was something that the 9 great Diana sects needed. The transportation formations between Mo Cloud Sea and the 9 great Diana sect were one of the few transportation formations that were still in use. The inspection at the transportation formation was strict, but for Zhuo Mo and the others, people that could see through their disguises would definitely not appear at the transportation formation. Without needing any great effort, they successfully entered the 9 great Diana sects. When they entered the land of the 9 great Diana sects, the scenery was completely different than that of Mo Cloud Sea. Both the buildings and the people around gave them a different feeling. Diana Xiu revered secret paradises and little islands could be seen floating everywhere. There were also some Diana Xiu that built the temples on top of lucky clouds. There were many temples, and the sound of bells and chanting were everywhere. In the streets, what was most common were the Diana Xiu dressed in robes of all colors, walking about barefoot and bald. They held staffs, wooden fishes, had peaceful expressions. Some were half naked, their bodies like metal. These people usually had stern expressions, and their steps were powerful. Diana Shio were rare in Imo Cloud Sea. It was the first time that everyone had seen so many Diana Shio and all of them found it interesting. The group disguised themselves as a merchant group. In order to not attract any attention, the manager and attendants were all real and experienced ones. They frequently entered the 9 Great Diana sect and were experienced. When Xian Kong Temple had been here, this place was even more prosperous. The steward next to Zhua Mo said emotionally, in that period of time when Xian Kong Temple fell, all of Xian Kong realm was quiet. They have just recovered some vitality after development in these years. This place only became prosperous again because it has a transportation formation that is connected to Mo Cloud Sea. Which sect does this place belong to? Zhua Mo asked curiously. Thunder Sound Temple, the steward hurriedly responded. He knew that Zhua Mo did not know much about the 9 Great Diana sects and introduced in detail, the Thunder Sound sect is first among the 9 Great Diana sects. The best battle general of the 9 Great Diana sects is Yang Yuan Hao, also of Thunder Sound sect. The development in its territory is the best, and it is the safest. Yang Yuan Hao. Zhua Mo couldn't help but still when he heard this name. Yang Yuan Hao was the strongest battle general that the 9 Great Diana sect created in recent years, and was the true pillar holding up the 9 Great Diana sects. The reason that Zhua Mo thought that the 9 Great Diana sect qualified to be the barrier that could stop Kunlun was the existence of Yang Yuan Hao. The 9 Great Diana sects that had Yang Yuan Hao was not at the same level as a 9 Great Diana sects that did not have a Yang Yuan Hao. If they did not have Yang Yuan Hao, Zhua Mo would be the first to attack the 9 Great Diana sects and swallow it before Kunlun and Tianhuan. Zhua Mo suddenly had a thought. If there was a chance, he wanted to meet this person that was one of the most important pillars of the 9 Great Diana sects. He did not worry about Yang Yuan Hao's enmity and wariness of Mo Cloud Sea. That could not be avoided. Yet Zhua Mo believed that Yang Yuan Hao could see the dilemma that the 9 Great Diana sects were under. Compared to Kunlun and Tianhuan, Mo Cloud Sea was undoubtedly a better ally. The 9 Great Diana sect did not have many choices. Where is Yang Yuan Hao now? Zhua Mo asked. The steward had a strained expression. This one does not know. We do not dare to search for information like this. Zhua Mo smiled. The steward was right. He had assumed too much. He changed the topic. How much longer until we can reach Heat Leaf Diana sect's territories? The steward said respectfully, if we use transportation formations, it will be about 20 or more days. Zhua Mo couldn't help but gape. More than 20 days even with transportation formations, that was really far. Zhua Mo decided that before they got to Heartleaf Diana sect, they would not make any trouble. But after flying for 2 days, Zhua Mo and the others detected people keeping watch over them. The observers were well concealed, and they had switched people in the process. If it wasn't that the people present were all experts, it most likely would be difficult to detect it. Zhua Mo did not attack. He pointed at the secret observers and asked the steward, "Do you know where they are from?" The steward made a careful examination. His expression changed slightly and he said in a low voice, "They are from Thunder Sound sect." Thunder Sound sect. Zhua Mo was slightly surprised. Had they exposed themselves somewhere? Otherwise, Thunder Sound sect would not have found them no matter how strong they were. Zhua Mo was very confident in his disguises. Definitely. Darren, notice the thunder scripts at their wrists, that is a trait unique to Thunder Sound sects. Only those that cultivate the Thunder Sound Shin methodology will have this kind of thunder script. The steward introduced in a low voice, and then asked, "Darren, what do you want to do?" Zhua Mo thought and then said, "Pretend not to have found them, we will continue to do what we do." "Yes." The steward responded. Then a hint of worry rose in his eyes. He had traveled this path countless times and it was the first time he encountered a situation like this. The observers changed shifts several times. Zhuemo and the others pretended to be ignorant, and traveled as usual. Only 5 days later, when Zhuemo and the others were about to leave the territories of Thunder Sound Temple, where they stopped. They were not the only ones. Many ships had been stopped at the border. Disciples of Thunder Sound Temple are here on orders to do an inspection. Many thanks for your cooperation. The voice of a Thunder Sound disciple spread. Dozens of Thunder Sound disciples danced in the air. They wore Shin equipment and seemed as though they were facing a great enemy. Some of the disciples had staffs that flashed with light and could attack at any moment. Big brother, what has happened here? This has never occurred before. The steward was smart and immediately went over to inquire. Who knows? It started a few days ago. I heard that thing was lost. That person's really daring to steal from Thunder Sound Temple. The one that spoke was a middle-aged person who had a weathered face. Yeah, but we are the ones that lose out, this delays us, another person said. The middle-aged person shook his head and said, just cooperate and it will be fine. The disciples of Thunder Sound sect are slightly domineering, but they are disciplined. They won't take anything or delay us unnecessarily. If this is on Heartleaf Diana sect's territory, don't think about getting out unless you bleed a bit. Oh, the disciples of Thunder Sound Temple are this disciplined? Zhuemo inserted. The bigger sects like Thunder Sound Sect, Lotus Sutra Temple, they are all disciplined. Those little sects are not, the middle-aged person explained. At this time, the Thunder Sound Temple disciple that stared at Zhuemo flew towards another disciple in the air and whispered. That disciple immediately turned to look at Zhuemo's group. He beckoned to a few others that landed around Zhuemo, and surrounded his group. The surrounding people immediately ran away in fear. Zhuemo hadn't thought that the other was truly coming for him. Their luck was really bad to encounter such a thing. This one is Thunder Sound Temple disciple Liao Yu, greetings. The leading Thunder Sound Temple disciple bowed with a solemn expression. Our sect is conducting a routine inspection. Please cooperate and forgive us for our disturbance. The surroundings immediately became quiet. The eyes of everyone in the group turned towards Zhuemo. Chapter 765, Lil Black's Achievement, Let Them Inspect. Zhuemo said baldly. For one, he was curious about the goal of these Thunder Sound Temple disciples. They had been targeted from the start, and it did not appear to be a coincidence. Secondly, Zhuemo also wanted to see if their disguise could pass the test. If they could not even work on some Thunder Sound Temple disciples, it would be embarrassing if they went to Heartleaf Diana sect and were discovered. Little Mo Gu wanted face. Since he decided to go the devious way, they naturally could not show any slip-ups. Tian Huan had heavily infiltrated Heartleaf Diana sect, and there definitely were experts that Tian Huan had sent hiding among them. Zhuemo had made a decision to declaw Heartleaf Diana sect. These Tian Huan Shouja in hiding were on Zhuemo's blacklist. It had to be said that the disguises of Zhuemo's group were very good. They were dressed plainly without any decoration. Other than Zhuemo, who was dressed slightly better due to acting as the boss of the merchant group, the other people were attired normally. Their Shin equipment and other things were stored in their rings, and their rings were also disguised to appear like normal rings. The Ling steeds that they rode were also appropriate to their identity, all of them Ling-horned horses. They were cheap, had high endurance, and were easy to feed. Any inn could supply the appropriate Ling grasses to feed them. For merchant groups who cared about overhead costs, they liked the Ling-horned horses. Several Thunder Sound Temple disciples immediately encircled them, and there were some other disciples that were warily staring at them. Zhuemo and the others were experienced fighters and unaffected by these Thunder Sound Temple disciples. The Thunder Sound Temple disciple who had gone in to inspect quickly came out and shook his head. The disciple leader hadn't expected that they wouldn't find anything at all. He hesitated and then said, as though nothing has happened, great apologies for the disturbance, you may go." Just as the steward was about to say thanks and leave, Suemo suddenly spoke, "Are you looking for something?" The leading disciple stilled. He clearly had not been prepared for Suemo's question. He probably had not thought that someone would ask in a situation like this. However, the other's expression was normal and there was nothing fishy. He hesitated before nodding and saying, "Yes. A treasure of our sect was stolen, and we are looking for it." Thinking about how the mission was incomplete, his mood immediately became terrible. He waved his hand impatiently. "You may go." The other merchant groups immediately started as though they had been pardoned. Seeing the merchant groups hurriedly leaving, the leading disciple had a thoughtful expression. He quickly realized what had been wrong. The other had been too calm, and didn't show any reverence because of his identity. That group is suspicious. A tall disciple came over and said in a low voice, Lao Jiao said that he felt unusual vibrations coming from them. Unusual vibrations? The leading disciple frowned. Yes, it was short, but Lao Jiao said that it definitely isn't an illusion. Unusual vibrations does not mean they are hiding the thing. The leading disciple shook his head. But it is very likely. You know that Lao Jiao's sense is unusual. Then what do you think we should do? The leading disciple was persuaded. Looking at their direction, it seems that they are heading towards Lotus Sutra Temple. Let's first close the transportation formation towards Lotus Sutra Temple, the tall disciple said coldly, then they will only have one path. The leading disciple's expression changed slightly. Black Sea Flying Route. Suemo was extremely bored. Everyone around him was a cultivation maniac. Other than the stewards that could chat with him, the other people either cultivated, or cultivated. Wei Xing's eyes were closed and he was in meditation, Zhong Ru was in meditation, Luo Li was in meditation, even the ones he picked out were in meditation. Agui's eyes were not closed, but Suemo knew that she did not need to meditate. She could cultivate like this. The boring long journey was just like normal. The only one that did not cultivate was Tsing Lianer, but this horrid person made tea, and idly enjoyed the scenery. She didn't show any intentions of sharing a cup with Suemo. Who really was the boss? Suemo was furious, but he had to admit that some people's presences could not be copied. Suemo tried Tsing Lianer's idle and serene style, but it was not right when he did it. The strength of the stewards could not compare to Suemo. They were tired by the long travel and didn't have much energy to speak. The Suemo, bored, could only let the little ones out and started to play with them. Silly Bird naturally ignored him. She was usually proud, and now that her strength had grown immensely, she became even prouder. That imperious gaze was still so domineering. 10th grade was a cultivation fanatic, Sunshine was slightly bashful, Lil Pagoda, Lil Fire, and Lil Black were the best at flattering him. They flew in circles around Suemo and fawned over him. Suemo was very comforted. Suemo's hand felt a point of pain. He bent down and saw that it was Lil Black on his hand using its short legs to pull Suemo, its antennae furiously waving. Seeing Lil Black like this, Suemo's eyes suddenly lit up, the bored expression on his face sweeping away. Lil Black had been a good treasure hunter in the past, and after spending some time on Qingshidis' hands, it should have improved. Thinking about the valuable materials and Jingshi that Qingshidi had exploited out of him, Suemo felt his heart ache. Lil Black. Good Lil Black, you have to make me proud. If you can find some great treasure trove for your old man will give you some meat to eat. What? You don't want meat? That's alright, your old man will eat meat, you can drink soup. Did the heavens see the GE was in poverty now, and wanted to make it up to GE? Suemo put down Lil Black from his hand with anticipation. Lil Black climbed off Suemo's hand and flew towards the rear of the convoy. Suemo's mind became alert and he followed closely. Lil Black landed on the last transport boat. Suemo stilled and then had a suspicious expression. This transportation boat carried wares that were used as part of their identities. They were items from Mo Cloud Sea that were very welcome. If they were sold to Heartleaf Diana sect and the surroundings, they could make a significant profit. The journey was relatively hard, but there were many people that this alone would arouse suspicion. This ship had come with them from Mo Cloud Sea, there shouldn't be a problem. Zhuo Mo's pupil suddenly contracted. Had someone sneaked onto the ship? The guards on the ship saw Zhuo Mo arrive and were startled awake. When they saw Zhuo Mo's hand move to signal to be on their guard, their expressions changed. The other must be powerful to have managed to sneak onto the ship under such a heavy guard. Noticing Zhuo Mo's unusual actions, all of the merchant group were alerted. They were all experienced and worked well together. They didn't make a sound at all. They soundlessly flowed and spread into a net that had no weakness. Lil Black stopped outside the storage deck, its antennae waving furiously. But in the next moment, its body suddenly streaked back rapidly, and hid behind Silly Bird's back. When he got to here, Zhuo Mo finally discovered an almost imperceptible presence. He was shocked, his body trembling. This presence was extremely weak. Even though he was so close, if it wasn't for Lil Black's warning, he may have missed it. Someone had really sneaked onto the ship. Zhuo Mo felt a chill, but he was also angry. They had just entered the 9 great Diana sects and such a great oversight had been made. Zhuo Mo felt he was embarrassed, especially when there were so many experts around. The friend inside, do not hide. Come out. Zhuo Mo's tone was icy, the Shen technique on his hand ready to be cast. The entire net gave off a suffocating presence. There wasn't any movement inside. That almost intangible presence became even weaker as though it almost disappeared. Zhuo Mo was shocked. The other seemed to disappear into thin air. But he knew that the other had not truly disappeared but had just hid away all of their presence to become one with the surroundings. This caused the illusion that the other had disappeared. An expert. Zhuo Mo quickly made his decision, his tone even icier. If Sir does not come out by the count of 3, then be crushed with this ship. 3. Just as Zhuo Mo shouted this, a grey shadow suddenly charged in front of him. Zhuo Mo was astounded but he reacted quickly. The Shen technique that he had prepared accurately hit the grey shadow. Zhuo Mo did not keep anything back with this attack and the grey shadow crumpled. At the same time, he heard Wei Xing Shixiang shout, "Go back." A dazzling red sword light broke through the air. A faint, almost intangible presence, twisted strangely in the air, and suddenly appeared in another corner. Return. Tseng Lianer's expression turned dark. Her afternoon tea had been interrupted and she was not in a good mood. Dozens of moon crescents appeared around her, the sharp edges crisscrossing as though she wanted to dismember the shadow. The almost intangible shadow took a turn again. He charged directly towards Agui. Everyone else had expressions as they did not bear to look. Agui's figure flashed as though she disappeared in the air. The shadow felt the surrounding net open and was overjoyed. They gathered all the strength in their body in an attempt to charge through the opening. Yet before he could act, he felt a grip around his neck. He lost control of his body, and the world around him spun. Bam! Holding his neck, Agui swung her arm as though she was swinging a great hammer to hit the ship. The strong force caused the boards on the ship that were as hard as rock and covered in seal scripts to crack. The fragments shot into the surroundings. The shadow felt a great pain, and then fell unconscious. Before he lost consciousness, he saw blurry faces. The expressions on the faces of these people were really strange. It seems to be sympathy, or pity, or seemed to say, just as expected. Chapter 766, Bird, Mission, Snapped Red Silk, had been uprooted. This stunning news spread in the Yao underground world like a plague. The underground world was not as large as people imagined. While the influence of the underground had silently grown in recent years, every leader with a clear head knew that this golden age of prosperity was a temporary byproduct of the inner conflict in the Council of Elders. But the collapse of snapped red silk still caused an earthquake in the underground world. In truth, snapped red silk did not have large territories, but their skilled management made the faction a firmly established one. Their feelers reached into every corner of their territory. Unless it was a matter of life and death, there were not many factions that would touch them. They were strong for their size, and one would have to pay a significant price to defeat them. Also, snapped red silk's base was like an impenetrable barrel of metal. Even if one won, it was a complex and troublesome matter to digest a territory. Snapped red silk was strong because they were wealthy. The reason that they were wealthy was because they had a monopoly over the local low-level materials business. The profit in low material business was not high. But because the majority of powerful factions were not willing to waste manpower on controlling this business, it was left to the underground factions. Snapped red silk was like all other underground powers. They usually were greatly connected to the lowest rungs of society. They had abundant manpower and no competition from large factions. Snapped red silk had quickly taken over almost 7/10 of the low-level materials business in their territory. Any business, if it was a monopoly, would gain great profits even if the profit margin was slim. Low-level materials were not eye-catching, but they were traded in great volume. The snapped red silk that had a monopoly over the market started to manipulate the market to obtain even more profit. They were skilled, and the prices they gave the large factions were far lower than market price. With this method, they hadn't affected the benefits of the major factions, and even built a terrifying web of connections. Yet a faction like this had been exterminated. The faction that had destroyed it was called Black Fire. Black Fire was a relatively unknown name in the underground world, but this unknown little faction had defeated snapped red silk that everyone had been unable to deal with. It really was fantastical. The tentacles of the underground factions were like an invisible spider web. Any gust of wind or movement would be felt. Soon, all kinds of intelligence about Black Fire ended up on the desks of leaders everywhere. Yu Qinlai's recent days were extremely comfortable, and there was a joyful expression on his dark face that could not be disguised. He had a few more powerful fighters under his command. The struggles of snapped red silk were like that of a wild beast at the end of its life. After their last struggle had been blocked, they completely fell apart. Compared to the difficulty of the battles before, the battles after the added personnel were so easy it was like sightseeing. However, eliminating the remaining of snapped red silk's power was slightly troublesome. While Yu Qinlai was young, he was skilled and cunning. The secret pieces that he had set up before were now coming into use. Many thanks, everyone. Yu Qinlai expressionlessly stated his thanks. Next to him, Tao Wei and the others looked with complicated expressions as Nan Yu and the others. The underground world did not lack for experts like Wu Ying who were strong. But the people in front of them were so strong they felt fear and awe. Experts of this level could only be supported by those large factions. Boss support was really unfathomable. Tao Wei and the others could see that while Nan Yu's group was strong, they were definitely not people that worked in the shadows. They did not have any presence of darkness, and their personalities were honest and straightforward like their way of fighting. No problem. Wariness flashed across Nan Yu's eyes. She had an instinctive wariness of these people of the shadows. If she did not see it with her own eyes, she would not believe that Darren would have this kind of faction that worked in the shadows. She asked directly, "What do we need to do next?" "If possible, we hope to finish as soon as possible." The gazes of everyone behind her gathered on Yu Qinlai. They were extremely wary of this young but extremely vicious and cunning youth. They had watched as Yu Qinlai expressionlessly executed more than 30 people. This guy was a demon. They only hoped now to finish their mission as soon as possible and then leave this place. They liked sunlight and not darkness. Yu Qinlai jerked the corners of his lips. It could have been in mirth or disdain. But he turned and nodded at Tao Wei. Tao Wei understood and took out a jade scroll to hand to Nanyu. Nanyu took the jade scroll with some puzzlement and then started to read. This person is one of Darren's targets. Yu Qinlai's voice carried a darkness that would make people feel cold. Nanyu finished reading and handed the jade scroll to others. She raised her head. I cannot see what is special about this person. Tao Wei smiled slightly. Her lips moved and an enchanting voice spread. Cangling Shui, female, 26, a member of the Gray family. Gray family? Cang Zhe couldn't help but say. He was curious at encountering someone with the same surname as him. Tao Wei did not know why Cang Zhe was shocked. She continued to give a detailed explanation, the Cang family of New Flat Jie. It is a local faction. Her parents passed away when she was 11 and she became the family head, the youngest family head in the history of the Gray family. Nanyu immediately had a feeling of empathy. This was a situation similar to the one she experienced in the past. She knew just how difficult it was for a child of 11 to become the family head. New Flat Jie's other factions all assumed that the Gray family's decline was certain, and this included factions that were enemies of the Gray family. Therefore, 3 local factions allied together and attacked the Gray family. Yet no one expected was that the Gray family defeated the 3 families under the leadership of Cangling Shui. This battle made the Gray family and Cangling Shui famous in the New Flat Jie. Everyone listened, enchanted. Many people had astonished expressions. This would have been so difficult for an 11-year-old girl. After that, the Gray family quickly grew in power under the leadership of Cangling Shui. 3 years later, the Gray family became one of the 5 biggest factions in New Flat Jie. Under her initiative, the 5 strongest families of New Flat formed the New Flat Merchant Association. The chair was Cangling Shui. That year, she was 15. Everyone gaped as they heard this. The New Flat Merchant Association developed quickly and in the following years, their business expanded to more than 30 of the surrounding jie. Oh, I forgot to tell everyone, Cangling Shui is 17 this year. So there are really geniuses in the world. Nanyu couldn't help but sigh in astonishment. The orange-haired Yao crowded over and said shamelessly, "Is Sister Nan talking about me?" Awen coldly said, "Idiot." Nanyu's eyebrow twitched. These two were starting again. She brought out her killing move. "Shut up. Don't forget what boss said before you left." The orange-haired Yao shrunk his head back, and said, "Good brothers are loyal, I am peerlessly loyal." Awen was silent. A look flashed through Tao Wei's eyes. She looked at Boss. Boss' eyes were closed. "Please continue," Nanyu said. Cangling Shui is skilled in management. Under her reigns, the Cang family is not just organized, it has quickly grown. Her talent and skill also aroused the attention of many factions. The New Flat Merchant Association has some power, but compared to the larger factions, it isn't worth a mention. I heard that even the Council of Elders is interested in her. Tao Wei's eyes moved. Do you know what is the best way to recruit a young female? Nanyu said coolly, "Force a marriage." Tao Wei laughed lightly. Miss Nanyu is really smart. There are many ways of dealing with Cangling Shui. Cangling Shui does not have much to bargain with. The most effective method is a marriage proposal. Cangling Shui is beautiful, she is rich, and skilled in management. It will be greatly profitable if one could marry this kind of woman. Up until now, Cangling Shui has received over 10 marriage proposals. None of these factions are ones that she, or the New Flat Merchant Association can afford to offend. These people should be killed. One who hated being forced to do anything said in fury. The orange-haired Yao said righteously, "Only a genius can save a beautiful maiden." Nanyu ignored the two of them. What does she have to do with us? Yu Qinlai, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. This is one of the targets from the higher-ups. Do not ask me the reason. You only need to know that she is your target and I will help you complete the mission. What do we have to do? Ming Juzi asked. Of the group, he had the most ideas. I lean towards kidnapping her. Yu Qinlai shrugged and seemed cunning like a fox. However, this is your mission. You will decide how to carry out your mission. The higher-ups want to recruit a talent that is skilled at internal management. Of course, if you accidentally damage her, we have other targets. Such a cold and emotionless person. Nan Yu's dislike increased. However, Ming Juzi answered before she did, you mean that after completing this, we have other targets to reach? Yes. Yu Qinlai said coolly, the preliminary list to investigate was 103 people. After investigation and selection based on the higher UPS criteria, there are 16 in left. 16 people. Nan Yu and the others gaped. This number surprised their imagination. These 16 are all talented, each of them is not from strong faction and are easy to get to. Yu Qinlai looked at the group and jerked the corners of his mouth. You should thank me, I helped you finish a large part of the work. There are 8 that are already taken care of through terror, kidnapping and bribery, and another one we just got from, snapped Red Silk. You mean we have 7 left? Ming Juzi immediately caught the point. Yes, Yu Qinlai said expressionlessly, I suggest you first go after Cangling Shui. In the ranking from the higher-ups, she has the highest score. While the final result will only be known after they fight it out, I favor her. Also, the level of this mission is, bird. I believe that you know what this means. Nan Yu and the others were shocked. Chapter 767, Bronze Hoop Remnant, Bird, was the highest level of mission for MO Cloud C. ZWMO had set up MO Cloud C's mission structure using the Lil One's rankings. From highest to lowest, it was, Bird, Pagoda, Butterfly, Fire, and Worm. Bird level missions were the highest priority and most important missions of MO Cloud C. It meant that this mission was a crucial mission that would determine life and death for MO Cloud C. Bird level missions were not easily announced, but once they were, every person of MO Cloud C had a duty and responsibility to serve for the Bird level mission. For any Bird level mission, if it was necessary, all the power of MO Cloud C could be mobilized to complete it, and they were obligated to do so. There were not many that knew of this compulsory rule. Normal citizens would almost never encounter missions above Fire level. But Nan Yu and the others had followed ZWMO for many years and knew about the inner workings. So when Yu Qinlai stated the mission ranking, they could not keep their composure. What do we need to do? Nan Yu asked gravely. Her expression was stern and focused. Everyone else, even the orange-haired Yao, put away their cheer and became focused. The temperature of the conference room suddenly dipped, the atmosphere becoming heavy and solemn. Tao Wei and the others felt slightly uneasy. They felt surprised at this suddenly transformation, but more of what they felt was shock. They were experienced, and they could see the great importance that Nan Yu and the others placed on this mission. It came from their hearts. The level of the mission changed their attitude. A scene like this would only appear if the other had strict organization and they strongly identified with the organization. This was a strict, regulated, and united organization. They could not see the organization behind Boss, but this was the tip of the iceberg and made them feel great awe and terror. Yu Qinlai seemed to not feel the suddenly murderous atmosphere. He was still expressionless. This is a problem you will need to consider. From my position, using tactics like kidnapping and such is the most convenient. But considering that they will become your co-workers in the future, I suggest using gentler tactics. For example, Nan Yu found that she could not treat this Lord of the Darkness using a normal view. The other was not as strong as them, but in terms of viciousness and cunning, all of them added up were not a match for him. No matter how strong a 17-year-old female is, she is still 17. Yu Qinlai glanced at Nan Yu. There is a common saying. You give her what she needs. Ming Ju Zi had a thoughtful expression. Nan Yu was even more direct. What does she need? While she had never seen Yu Qinlai, and the aura of darkness on the other made her uncomfortable. But since the higher-ups had given the bird-level mission to him, it showed that this youth of the underground was trustworthy. Yu Qinlai had clearly been investigating and working on this for a long time, and he definitely knew more than they did as well as being more experienced. In this kind of situation, it was more reliable to listen to the suggestions of a professional. A look flashed across Yu Qinlai's expressionless face, but then it disappeared. He turned to Chai Shanqing, speak. Chai Shanqing was not surprised. He elegantly nodded at each person. His voice was clear as though it contained a power that would make people unconsciously trust him. First, we will analyze Zhongling Shue's personality. She was able to save the Gray family from a dangerous situation, and created the new Flat Business Association. Other than her outstanding abilities, she has unique personality traits. She is determined to the point of stubbornness, decisive, and filled with confidence and a strong sense of responsibility. Everyone felt this was reasonable and nodded. Chai Shanqing smiled elegantly. At this time, he was like a wise and educated teacher without any aura of darkness. She is extremely confident. This kind of confidence has helped her overcome many obstacles. Due to this, even though she seems surrounded on all sides, her stubbornness and confidence keep her believing that she can find a way out. This will make her try all kinds of methods to resolve the danger present. Even though all the factions are pressuring her, she will not surrender immediately. She will struggle for a time. But let us first analyze her situation. We will find that the probability that she can break free of the situation is low. The enemies can obtain both the person and wealth, who would let her go. Those greedy people would not do so. According to our investigation, the ones behind those acting now are mighty. So mighty that even Ming Yuyi is wary. Ming Yuyi is Zhongling Shue's best person to side with, but Ming Yuyi is busy consolidating her power and obtaining the support of other elders. She would only interfere with the plans of other elders in one situation, when the benefits surpasses her losses. But it is clear that the current 17-year-old Zhongling Shui and the new Flat Merchant Association do not possess such high value. Nan Yu and the others unconsciously stopped breathing. They listened, entranced. In a few words, the complex situation became clear. Consequently, in my predictions, the possibility that Zhongling Shui can break free is very low. What determines this is her other trait, her strong sense of responsibility. It is not good to act against Zhongling Shui openly, but there are many ways to deal with the Gray family and the new Flat Merchant Association. For the future of the Gray family, I think the probability that Zhongling Shui will make a compromise is high. Of course, I have to admit that Zhongling Shui may be able to get out due to her great talents. Therefore, we need to work in the shadows to stop any chance that she can get out. Why? Nan Yu frowned. She innately did not like these machinations in the shadows. Chai Shanqing smiled as though he was not discussing a conspiracy but a theoretical problem. No matter how hardy, how determined she is, do not forget her age. A hopeless situation, the feeling of defeat and hopelessness created by failure of her struggles, that is enough to take her to her most fragile state. She will struggle in a darkness where she cannot see any hope. At this time, we only need to give her one thread of hope and we can recruit her. This is our only chance. Nan Yu and the others shuddered, their bodies cold. Zhang Zhe couldn't help saying, why don't we find her now? If we offer her enough, we may be able to persuade her. Chai Shanqing laughed lightly, we will never be able to offer as much as the others. Once we appear, Cang Lin Shui will not give up on the chance to use us to strengthen her bargaining position. She will then sell us off to the highest bidder and together they will become enemy. Then they will use all kinds of schemes to push us out of the game. We can only hide in the darkness, but they can work in the light. This means that what we can give cannot be more than what they can. Do not ever underestimate the cunning and greed of these families. They are bloodsuckers. What they are most skilled in is using their background and power to push others out of business. He then smiled coldly and said, Cang Ling Shui is still waiting for a better offer, yet she does not understand these people well enough. They will not give her a chance. They are like a pack of wolves, cunning and cooperative. They can compromise among themselves, but they cannot accept prey bargaining with them. This is an advantage that their power gives them. They have used this advantage for thousands of years. They are familiar with everything that can be used, and are used to using it to get the most benefits. Everyone was silent. Yu Qinlai's cool voice interrupted their thoughts. He is an expert in this field. If you are willing to listen to his opinion, he will become your helper. A long time later, Nan Yu spoke, "Many thanks, Mr. Chai." Chai Shanqing elegantly bowed, "It is my honor to work for you." Zuomo examined this guy who had been stripped until he only had one piece of cloth left and was locked up by numerous jinji. The people around him looked predatorily at this tender-looking person with unfriendliness. Someone had managed to get onto the ship without being detected, and this happened in front of Darren. All of them felt ashamed and were not in good moods. The captive was short and the disguise on his face had been cleaned off to show an ordinary face. But there were many faint scripts carved on his body that seemed like the Mo matrices that Mo Cloud Sea carved. It was the first time Zuomo had seen similar things in other places. After inspecting them, Zuomo found that what was inscribed on the person were not Mo matrices but a kind of unique seal script. This kind of seal script already had some of the traits of Shen glyphs. It was these seal scripts that were close Shen glyphs which allowed his presence to be hidden to such an astounding degree that none of the numerous experts present detected him. The effects of these seal scripts broadened Zuomo's view. After making a copy of all the seal scripts on this guy's body, Zuomo's attention moved on to another item. A half section of a bronze hoop. Zuomo knew with a glance that this bronze hoop was the remnant of an ancient Shen device. The simple and almost crude patterns on the bronze hoop were the signature of that era. Also, there was a very faint yet unique Shen power vibration from the bronze hoop. This was probably what Thunder Sound Temple had been searching for. Zuomo played with it before handing it off to the others. This thing probably wasn't simple as it appeared, being the remnant of a Shen device and to cause Thunder Sound Temple to make such a great fuss over it. He motioned to the guard next to him. The guard kicked the unconscious captive. The captive slowly woke up. When he opened his eyes, he looked dazedly at the unfamiliar faces. When his gaze encountered a Goe, he shook and immediately woke up. Some terrifying memories flashed through his mind, and his body unconsciously shook. At this time, he heard someone speak. "Speak, who are you?" You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.